Greetings, my fellow Americans. This is your President Samuel Ronan speaking, and today is Recap Thursdays. Yes, we have made it another week of streaming. We have made it. We have survived, and World War III, for whatever reason, has not kicked off yet. Thank goodness. Sadly, I also haven't won the lottery yet, which means the revolution also hasn't kicked off yet. But hey, one thing at a time, right? So, as you can undoubtedly tell, my voice is becoming quite shot, so hopefully I do in fact make it through the whole stream today, and hopefully my voice recovers by Saturday when I go to ask people for signatures for, my campaign. On that note, I'll probably try and do less speaking, less crashing out, but, no promises. It is a stream and it is me. So, with that said, we have plenty to cover. We're obviously going to start off with Democracy Now!, Amy Goodman with Democracy Now! This is the something report. I almost have it memorized because we hear it all the time. But everything from talking about Trump's speech yesterday, which we obviously refused to watch ourselves, and a bunch of just headlines that occurred just overnight, it seems. So we can go ahead and get started with that. Welcome, Anna, and welcome everybody who is joining us. Let's jump in.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report.
I'm War and Peace Report. Okay.
The Pentagon said Wednesday it's blown up another boat suspected of carrying drugs in the eastern Pacific. U.S. Southern Command released video showing a speedboat erupting in flames, saying the attack killed, quote, 4 male narco-terrorists, unquote.
Yeah, but see, and I just said I'd try to not interrupt as much, but this is the thing that keeps killing me about this. We already watched the military seize an oil tanker, and that's probably why our gas prices are going down, right? So there was evidence, there was a process, there was, the military going in and doing things, right? And yet, here we're just supposed to take their word for it that the people that they murdered were in fact narco-terrorists. If they were narco-terrorists, and if that was the justification we were looking for to invade Venezuela, wouldn't you want to go out of your way to capture these people and then parade them in front of cameras as like, look, this is Maduro's administration. He is a narco-terrorist administration. He is the cartel, whatever. Look, these are avowed cartel members. Look, this is the fentanyl we seized. Wouldn't you want to instead actually capture these boats and seize what's on them and then parade the captives as proof of your justification in the area? Because murdering them extrajudicially and making up lies does not look good on you at all. And because it isn't good on you at all. It's because it's a war crime. So the fact that it continues to be the war crime approach rather than proving that these people are in fact criminals or, traffickers of some sort or another, just goes to show that the validity of those claims are probably everything but. Just throwing that out there. Susie Wiles already gave up Trump's game. He's just going to keep blowing boats until Maduro resigns, which is true. We did cover that yesterday. But, I'm just saying for the sake of argument that blowing up boats without due process and not even trying to capitalize on capturing the people in the boats and showing that they are the narco-terrorists that we claim they are, just goes to show that this is just wanton destruction to justify war with Venezuela, which we are instigating.
If the Pentagon's numbers are accurate, it would be the 26th such strike, bringing the death toll to 99 people. It came as House Republicans Wednesday rejected a pair of war powers resolutions introduced by Democrats that would have forced the White House to seek congressional approval for the boat strikes and for any attack against Venezuela. The resolution.
Well, considering the war powers do, in fact, belong to Congress, they shouldn't have to pass a resolution in the first place. What they should be doing is sanctioning Trump for not utilizing Congress in the first place. But I digress.
The resolution was co-sponsored by Massachusetts Congressmember Jim McGovern.
When we go to war, our troops have no choice but to follow the orders that are given to them.
That's
right. But
that's not true at all, buddy. If we go to war, the troops are still only supposed to obey lawful order. Like, this is why not having military service in government is a huge, huge failure. Like, I'm not saying it should be and must be a requirement, but at the very least, you should learn a little bit about military law, considering you will then be responsible for engaging in military conflict or allowing military conflict to continue or engage or whatever else. You would imagine that having a baseline reference and understanding of military law and armed conflict and this, that, and the other would be a baseline requirement. Just my 2 cents.
Bottom line is we have a responsibility to make sure they don't get sent into a mess, that we know what the hell we're doing, that there's a clearly defined mission, that this is the right thing to do.
I mean, correct, but I mean, buddy, they're already at the weapons of mass destruction aspect of this invasion. So I think you just need to call it what it is, which is a criminal enterprise by a criminal administration, and censure. That was the word I was looking for. You need to censure the administration, and specifically Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump for perpetuating this nonsense. But again, that would require people to, actually do their jobs in Congress. Oh my goodness, Lady Cake. Lady Cake is making an appearance. One of the OG supporters. Hello. Same goes for being the commander-in-chief. How can you have a commander-in-chief who doesn't know anything about the military and who is a 5-time draft dodger and disparages the military every chance they get? Never mind being in charge of the Department of Defense in the first place, right? Like, being an alcoholic newscaster is not a qualification. I'm sorry.
And it is the wrong thing to do, in my opinion. We have homeless veterans. We can't provide people in this country health care. People don't have adequate housing. People are hungry, and you want to spend billions and trillions of dollars on another war. Well, I don't want any part of it.
The Senate overwhelmingly passed the...
I mean, his heart, his Massachusetts heart was in the right place. I'll give him that.
$901 billion National Defense Authorization Act Wednesday. It's the largest military spending bill in U.S. history. It pledges $800 million for Ukraine and a 4% pay raise for U.S. troops. A majority of Democratic senators joined most Republicans to pass the spending bill, but 16 Democrats, 3 Republicans, and Vermont's independent Senator Bernie Sanders voted no.
For the record, I am a United States Air Force veteran. I was active duty and I was reserves. There was even a time where I was considering going back to active duty because, well, chasing the private sector wasn't really working out for me. I just want to say all that and put that in perspective when I say what I'm about to say next. I would have voted against this spending bill as well, because we don't need an inflated military budget. What we need to do is bring back benefits for our veterans, guaranteed pension plans instead of this 401k for life nonsense. And we need to bring back benefits for the VA bill that isn't just relegated to being used for education. It used to be you could cash out the GI Bill for a down payment on a house, or you could use it for a loan on for a business loan. There were many different things you could do with this VA loan 10, 15, 20 years ago that is out the window. Never mind the benefits of veterans or the fact that the VA is continuously short-staffed, underfunded, and so on and so forth. So rather than adding another $200 billion to the budget so that Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, and Boeing can make themselves that much richer and buying weapons that can end life on Earth in a moment's notice, why don't we instead take the money that we already have and invest it in our armed forces, their training, their equipment, their benefits, right? That is what we should be doing, not just giving the military-industrial complex more money. So, for the record, I would have voted against this as well. Okay, you guys are having your own.
Democratic Senator Ron Wyden said, quote, "I cannot support a bill that increases military spending by tens of billions of dollars and fails to include guardrails against Donald Trump and Hegseth's authoritarian abuses."
I mean,
unquote.
That's a valid argument as well. I think my argument of it's just unnecessary and we're not even directing the money where it needs to go. But the fact that there are no guardrails to the abuses of power, I mean, that's That's valid. That's valid.
In Gaza, Israel's military is continuing to violate.
All right. I'm not going to crash out. In fact, I'm going to let Amy Goodman say her piece. I'm going to comment at the end, and we're going to move along. Because I literally don't have the throat for it.
Violate the U.S. brokered ceasefire agreement. On Wednesday, Israeli troops fired a mortar shell over the yellow line dividing the Palestinian territory, wounding at least 10 people. Separately, Gaza health officials confirmed the death of 1-month-old Saeed Assad Abdin due to extreme cold, raising the number of recent weather-related deaths to 13 as Palestinians are forced to decide between sheltering in bombed-out buildings or makeshift tents. On Capitol Hill,
Israel's genocide hasn't stopped against Palestinians. It has simply taken on a new form, and now they're ramping up the military action against them as well. So not only are Palestinians dying due to exposure and lack of shelter, the Israeli military is apparently ramping up its violent attacks against them as well. So, I pray that Palestine in Gaza continues to exist by the time I'm president or by the time I'm in Congress. But at the rate things are going, I am genuinely concerned that they will be erased off the map and that the only response from Western powers will be, oh darn, how could we have seen this coming? Oh no, if only we could have done something more. Let us all have a moment of silence. And quite frankly, every single one of those motherfuckers should be sent to The Hague instead.
4 House Republicans defied Speaker Mike Johnson Wednesday and joined Democrats backing a discharge petition to force a vote on extending health care subsidies for 3 years. Their defection came as the House passed a GOP-backed health care spending bill that does not address the subsidies, which means millions of Americans will likely see their health insurance premiums rise in January.
So how does a Republican health care bill pass without actually addressing health care? That isn't...
According to the Congressional Budget Office, the Republican health care bill would result in about 100,000 more Americans uninsured per year over the next decade. This is Democratic Congressmember Emilia Sykes.
It is unacceptable that Congress is about to head home having done nothing to protect the millions.
Anna, get this woman's contact information. Like, literal, I know she's going to have a website and I know she's going to have like a congressional reach, but let's see which district she's in and if there's a way that we can coordinate, even though we're running as a Republican. But that's badass. For once, I can be proud of Ohio in this moment.
Millions of Americans who will lose coverage on January 1st. The heartbreaking stories from my constituents who have no clue how they're going to make ends meet as we enter into what should be a merry holiday season.
Meanwhile, civil rights groups are blasting a bill narrowly approved by the House Wednesday that would criminalize providing gender-affirming medical care for any transgender person under 18 and subject providers to hefty fines and up to 10 years in prison. In a statement, the ACLU writes, quote, "Families often spend years considering how best to support their children, only to have ill-equipped politicians interfere by attempting to criminalize the health care that they, their children, and their doctors believe is necessary to allow their children to thrive."
And it's also a violation of the 14th Amendment. Like, again, you cannot pass bills to deliberately discriminate against various demographics. Like, I just, this shouldn't be an argument. Like, this shouldn't be a debate. The fact that they're passing this bill doesn't make it lawful. The bill itself is criminal because it is disparaging against a protected class of people. They may as well put in the bill that doctors that provide health care to native affirming care is also resultant in criminal acts, or female affirming care for women's health is viable for criminal acts, or hell, male affirming care Because, like, gender affirming care, right, would still be like a woman getting a woman's doctor, a gynecologist. I don't know what else other major names are for female specific doctors. I know specifically gynecologist. Like, there isn't a maleologist, a pinologist, right? Without, I guess, trying to go too far off the rails here. By literally creating the law that you can't provide gender affirming care, you're literally potentially making it illegal to provide feminine medical care to birthright women. Does that make sense? The gender affirming care is such a broad topic that if you put it into law, you're actually including for the cisgendered as well, which is absolutely like abject stupidity. So in their confusion, they hurt themselves. They broke the law by violating the 14th Amendment, and their bigotry is not justified legislation. It's just not justified grounds for legislation. It isn't. I'm sorry. Not sorry, actually. I just had to take my children to the hospital for flu and asthma. I will let you know what the bill is after I get it, because there needs to be talked about. No, I definitely hear you on that. I, not like recently, but I actually had to go to emergency care because I thought I was having a stroke. Turns out I was having an ocular migraine. So if you ever are having a stroke and you're under the age of 50, it's probably an ocular migraine. But anyway, I went to a private, public-private hospital, and with permission from the VA. But the bill that I got from that hospital that I then forwarded to the VA was going to be $1,400 to tell me that I was okay. $1,400 to say that I was fine. And that was after significant reductions. I believe it was originally going to be $3,000 to tell me that I was fine. And I'm like, are you out of your fucking minds? This is our healthcare. Healthcare, right? Again, without crashing out too much, and I'm not going to be able to talk tomorrow, but that's fine. If health insurance companies are profiting, not generating revenue, but profiting $1.4 trillion each year, that means what they're bringing in is even more than that. Probably double or triple. Typically, profit margins are between 10 and 20% for most industries. And I think with health insurance, it's actually a little bit high. You know what? We can actually do that math. Health insurance revenues 2025. See, they said 450 billion, but I saw something a minute ago that was $1 trillion in profit. Somebody is not giving the right numbers here. Capital and surplus, 230 billion, right? 224 billion. All right. Either which way, if it's not trillion, it's billion. It doesn't really matter how much it is. The main takeaway is that the billions of dollars in profit that these companies are making are billions of dollars in revenue that could otherwise be going to actual healthcare. Does that make sense? Like, whatever we are spending on health insurance is to pay for the entry into the hospital in the first place, right? So whether it's 400 billion or whether it's 4 trillion, whatever it is, because healthcare expenditures in the U.S. is actually around 4 trillion to 5 trillion. It fluctuates, right? So, and part of that's, of course, the federal spending, Medicare. My point here is whatever money health insurance is extracting from the process of entering into healthcare is literally an extraction. It is money that could otherwise be spent on the healthcare itself. If you were spending $800 a month on premiums and paying a hospital directly, you would be giving them that money directly and getting better care for it. without needing to worry about the premiums and everywhere else. Never mind the fact that Medicare for All pays for all medical processes in the United States directly, and that's taken out of our taxes and each of our paychecks at the rate of like $63 every $2,000 or something like that. It's not a very high amount of money, but it's everybody in the workforce that's paying into it. So again, the fact that we have these politicians without any medical understanding whatsoever painting a red brush with discrimination and bigotry that is then continuously impacting the regular healthcare of people, on top of passing healthcare bills that are going to exacerbate the healthcare crisis as it stands, while health insurance companies continue to profit hand over fist. Like this isn't governance. This is pillaging and plundering of a society. Plain and simple. Did that not?
The ACLU writes, quote, families often spend years considering how best to support their children, only to have ill-equipped politicians interfere by attempting to criminalize the health care.
And, yeah, you're right, Lady Cake. Who knows how much you're going to end up having to pay. And it's like it changes every time you actually need to use it, too. It says one thing, and then it says in the terms and conditions that premiums and deductibles can change at will.
That they, their children, and their doctors believe is necessary to allow their children to thrive, unquote. President Trump touted his economic record in a primetime address Wednesday, despite voters' growing concerns over affordability and the job market.
1 year ago, our country was dead. We were absolutely dead. Our country was ready to fail, totally failed. Now, we're the hottest country anywhere in the world.
This comes
maybe due to the sheer amount of hatred that is being directed our way. But yeah, this speech is filled with delusion. I'm sure she's going to cover it.
as the latest jobs report showed that unemployment in November ticked up to 4.6%, the highest level since September 2021. After headlines, we'll speak with Dean Baker, senior economist at the Center for Economic and Policy Research. The FBI's deputy director, Dan Bongino, announced he's resigning from the bureau next month. Bongino had clashed with the Justice Department over its handling of the Epstein files. Bongino, a podcast host, was picked by President Trump to serve as second in command at the FBI, despite having no ties to the agency. The FBI Agents Association, which represents around 14,000 current and former agents, had opposed Bongino's appointment to the position.
Yeah. Because why the fuck would you appoint a podcast host? Like, honestly, I'm running for Congress and I have aspirations for the White House, right? And I truly believe I have the capability of doing that. But that doesn't mean that I would be eminently qualified just to do any major role in the government, right? Like, I would not be qualified in the slightest to be in charge of the CDC, the CIA, the FBI. I think I'd be okay as Secretary of Defense. Housing, HHS, I think I'd be fine there. Transportation, I'd be fine there. NIST, I'd be fine there because that was actually my number one career in the military. There's a few agencies that I'd be comfortable with, but like a majority, like NASA, I mean, I'm smart, but I'm not NASA smart, right? It's just even somebody who is in Congress, in Senate, who became a governor even, former presidents, right? That doesn't make you eminently qualified to be in every single different department, right? But being a podcast host and an entertainer that's a right-wing conspiracy theorist at that has zero qualifications, none. Like, if I could squeeze my fingers together closer to put the two atoms together to touch and eliminate that space as well, that is how qualified that motherfucker is to be anywhere within the FBI, let alone as deputy director. Kash Patel should be resigning as well, for that matter. Like, honestly, the fact that these people haven't been censored and forced out of office is shocking to me. Right. It's like if I appointed Anna, who has been a very long time helper for me in my campaign and is most likely going to end up being my chief of staff in the White House, make her run NASA or something. She's qualified to run the staff. That doesn't necessarily mean she's qualified to run NASA. Or let alone like district attorney, or not district attorney, the Department of Justice, right? Like attorney general. There are some jobs that people just simply need qualifications for. And the FBI definitely requires qualifications. Anywho, I guess. Oh, Simply Steve, I missed you. Sorry about that. So the House grows a pair and forces a vote on the ACA, and old Limpole Mike shuts down the House. On top of that, I don't think it passed. So it's...
The Pentagon announced Wednesday it would open an administrative investigation into Democratic Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona. Kelly is a retired Navy.
I don't see how they have the jurisdiction to do that in the first place, but...
Captain and astronaut. The probe would focus on his participation in a video released last month with other Democratic lawmakers urging service members to refuse illegal orders from the Trump administration. At the time, President Trump had called for the execution of the Democratic lawmakers in the video.
Imagine calling for the execution of people who said disobey unlawful orders, which is the law of the military and the U.S. government to disobey unlawful orders. It's also international law. Like, there are so many layers of law that mandate that service members should disobey unlawful orders. Now imagine being the commander-in-chief and saying, I'm going to execute somebody for bringing that up. Like, unbelievable. They never got to take the vote. As soon as the motion came up, Mike shut down the House and sent everyone home. Oh, okay. I must have missed that when she was giving that explanation. My bad. But thank you, Steve, for clarifying that.
Former Justice Department Special Counsel Jack Smith told lawmakers in a closed-door session Wednesday his team of investigators had, quote, developed proof beyond a reasonable doubt that President Trump had conspired to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Smith also said his team had gathered powerful evidence that Trump broke the law by taking classified documents from his first term in office to his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida. Smith's investigation had led to 2 criminal indictments against Trump, which were shortly dropped by the Justice Department after he won the 2024 election. President Trump...
So if Jack Smith has a case, why isn't that moving forward? I mean, again, we know why it's not moving forward, but why isn't it moving forward? Like, just because the corrupt person that was going to face charges is now in power and is threatening everybody under the sun for going after him, doesn't change the fact that people can and should go after him. Even if it isn't the Supreme Court, even if it isn't the Justice Department, it's not like a lower court couldn't handle the case, right? So I'm not understanding how these things aren't moving forward. So what? When I win my election for Congress, I can call up Jack Smith and be like, hey, can you file these charges? Or do I have to wait until I'm president and be like, hey, Jack, you still alive? Great. I'm going to need you to file those charges. Like, I don't understand what
issued a pardon to Tina Peters, a former Colorado County clerk convicted of tampering with voting machines during the 2020 election. She's currently serving a 9-year prison sentence in Colorado, and state officials say President Trump doesn't have the legal authority to overturn her conviction in a state court.
Correct.
A lawyer for Peters, who attempted to present the formal pardon at the prison where Peters is being held to release her, was met by armed correction officers who denied him access. Peter Tickton, a lawyer for Peters and a longtime friend of Trump, told the New York Times, quote, for all I know, the president may send a marshal to the prison to have her released, unquote. Meanwhile, White House Budget Director Russell Vought says the Trump administration is breaking up the National Center for Atmospheric Research in Boulder, Colorado, known as NCAR.
Of course.
Vought announced the plan Wednesday on the social media site X, calling it, quote, one of the largest sources of climate alarmism in the country, unquote.
Right. Because why would the agency and institution that is dedicating itself to climate science be treated as anything other than a red herring, right? I mean, we may as well, whatever.
A follow-up White House statement accused NCAR of wasting taxpayer funds on, quote, woke research and, quote, green news scam research activities, unquote. Climate scientists and me.
Honestly, when I'm in Congress, one of the first things I'm going to do is pass legislation to require a advanced level of understanding of any legislation that is going to dismantle or otherwise shut down an agency that deals with science, history, art, the humanities generally, right? Because or STEM and the like just anything, right? If you're going to try and shut down an agency or an institution and you cannot prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that you understand what that institution is even doing, you don't have the right nor the authority to vote on it, support it, or even suggest that it should be shut down. And honestly, that provision alone would prevent every single government agency from being fucked with by Congress, because Congress is too fucking stupid and ignorant and uneducated to even know the basics of climate change, of science, of air traffic control, of aviation, of basic education and basic vaccine science. Like, and they keep passing it with the most arbitrary asinine arguments. It's woke. It's fear-mongering. It's green woke scam. Like, that's not a reason. That just perpetuates your own ignorance. That just shows everybody you don't know what you're fucking talking about. And honestly, you shouldn't be able to dismantle an agency you don't know anything about. I feel like that should be codified into law somehow. Pam Bondi just put out that the DOJ is offering cash rewards for people to rat out their leftist activist friends and family, especially those who stand for transgender rights. As of yesterday, we all now have a price on our heads. I, for one, don't give a shit. If they want to shut me up, they will have to kill me and make me a martyr. That's actually interesting. Anna, is that on our list? And if it isn't, can you find a video on that real quick?
Meteorologists reacted with alarm. Texas Tech professor Dr. Catherine Hayhoe said, quote, NCAR supports the scientists who fly into hurricanes, the meteorologists who develop new radar technology, the physicists who envision and code new weather models, and yes, the largest community climate model in the world, unquote. This is Dr. Daniel Swain, a weather and climate scientist who studies extreme weather events as a research partner at NCAR.
This would be a terrible blow to American science writ large. It would decimate not only climate research, but also the kind of weather, wildfire, and disaster research underpinning half a century of progress in prediction, early warning, and increased resilience.
Which, because California's been on fire for the past 10 years, hurricanes are becoming even more devastating as we speak. We're having, take Ohio, for example. It was below zero on Monday, and by Friday, it's going to be spring weather. That in December, almost Christmas time. It has hit 60 degrees in Ohio, when at the beginning of the week, it was below zero with wind chill. So, you're going to shut down the agency responsible for figuring that shit out and making our just weather channel predictions that much more accurate, so you know if you need a coat tomorrow or not. Honestly, this is the most pro-ignorance, anti-science administration agenda leadership that I have witnessed, not just in this country, but in history since the fucking Dark Ages. Like, this is the equivalent of saying any sort of science is witchcraft. Like, that is the level of pro-ignorance we are facing right now under this administration. And the amount of damage it's causing is going to be impacting ripple effects for years, if not decades to come. Sure, once I'm in Congress, once I'm in the White House, I can restore them. But after 3-4 years of missing out, how much backlog is going to be needed? How much work to undo the damage is going to need to be done? And then how much time will have that passed before we can even get to where we were before to actually make progress again? It could be years, it could be decades. And that's the problem. Everything that this administration dismantles, everything that they undermine, harm, destroy, deregulate, or give over to the private sector is going to have years and years of ramifications. And it is going to take an astronomical effort to overcome that in any sort of time scale. Like we talked about with the nursing. If nursing's no longer considered professional, current nurses aren't going to stay in the field, for one, or expand their training and their knowledge, for two. And then getting new nurses into the field are either going to dilute the skill set that exists or undermine the skill set that exists. And they're going to drive down wages, benefits, so on and so forth. So our nursing is going to take a nosedive for the next 3 years regardless. Assuming I get inaugurated January 21st, 2029, and I repeal all of that shit day one, that's still 3 years of training, 3 years of education, 3 years of missed opportunity that we would have to overcome. So that's a 3-year gap. Even if I undo it from that day, it would take a minimum of 3 years to get back to where we were at that point 6 years ago. So now it took 6 years to get back to where we were. Any progress made from that point would require the 6 years ago nurses still being there to train that finally graduating 3-year mark, and hoping that in the next 4 to 10 years, they can take on the spot from junior nurse to, senior nurse. Like, now I forgot what they were called, but like the nurse in charge. You get where I'm going with this, right? So just to get nursing back on track is at least going to be a 10-year game. At least a 10-year game. Because of the 3-year loss that we had, and the 3 years it's going to take just to get back to the point we were at 6 years ago. From that point, it's going to take another 3 to 6 years just to get maybe to the point of progress where we can actually, have nurses doing their jobs again. So you multiply that by the science field, you multiply that by the medical field at large, like vaccinations, pharmaceuticals, etc. You multiply that by the education department at large, right? Undermining education in our country. And then the fact that we're not investing in infrastructure, the fact that we're inflating our budgets in the military and in the secret police forces, right? We're going to be dramatically undermining our own social and civil structures. Dramatically. And that's just this year. God knows what else he's going to break in the next 3 or 4 years, right? So my point in saying all this is that even if I get elected and even if everything goes swimmingly and it's a sweep and I get Congress people and senators and so on and so forth, right, to support my administration, the work that's going to need to be done is going to first be putting out fires and undoing the harm that was caused, holding this administration criminally accountable, which is probably going to be the quickest way to do all of that, and then doing the work to actually rebuild. I won't actually have a successful administration in my first 100 days because my first 100 days will be spent putting out the fires and undoing the harm that was caused by this administration. Like, that is how fucked up things are.
On Wednesday, authorities evacuated the headquarters of the National Center for Atmospheric Research in Boulder due to an extreme windstorm that created a critical wildfire risk. This follows weeks of near-record high temperatures and almost no precipitation. The Senate's confirmed billionaire private astronaut Jared Isaacman is the new administrator of NASA. Isaacman's a close associate of Elon Musk, who's twice flown aboard SpaceX's Dragon spacecraft. He's a strong advocate for nuclear power and propulsion in space flight. His confirmation comes as the Trump administration's proposed slashing NASA's 2026 science budget nearly in half.
Yes, that's what we need in our government. more billionaires, and especially tech giants. That's what we need. Perfect. This is all due to Tina Peters in Colorado refusing to bow to Trump's overreach. It's going to be 60 on Christmas in Colorado. It's Trump punishing Colorado for not bowing down to him releasing the Tina Peters. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, the fact that this administration engages in political retaliation in the first place.
The Trump administration's ramping up efforts to strip hundreds of naturalized immigrants of their citizenship each month. That's according to a report in the New York Times, which found internal guidance issued this week to U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services field offices asked that they, quote, supply Office of Immigration Litigation with 100 to 200 denaturalization cases per month in the next fiscal year. The Times reports it would represent a massive escalation of denaturalization in the modern era.
What? Why? What's the fucking point of denaturalizing people? What purpose does that serve? They are citizens. They did everything to be a citizen in this country, and you're now going to take efforts to remove that from them? Are you fucking serious? You better start with Elon fucking Musk. We know he's going to try and find Elon Omar's, and I think there's several other Congress people who are naturalized citizens. So, is this really going to be a witch hunt just to kick out Democrats in Congress? Because his own wife would fall under this particular literal witch hunt. This is beyond unethical. So we're threatening immigrants outright. We're stripping them of their citizenship that they fucking earned and went through all the processes for. And you're going to just try and strip Americans of their birthright citizenship as well. So the Constitution says in order to be president, you have to have birthright citizenship, natural born citizen, right? Well, under this administration, that doesn't matter. We're just going to take it from you because we can, because you don't agree with Big Brother. You're completely undermining one of the most core tenets of the Constitution, which guarantees citizenship to those born in the United States or to U.S. service members. Wow.
Minneapolis's police chief is criticizing federal immigration agents after they were caught on video kneeling on the back of a woman as they held her face down in a snowbank before dragging her by the arm to an unmarked vehicle. Video shows protesters confronting the agents as they sought to arrest the woman, shouting she was pregnant and couldn't breathe, and pelting them with snowballs. The federal agents responded by pointing weapons at the protesters and pepper spraying them. In California,
are they, is all of this really trying to escalate into violence? Because every time I see these videos, the only thing I can think of is violence. That's the only thing I can think of. If I saw that happening in front of me, I would fight them. I would fight them and then be in prison for the rest of my life for fighting them. Because what they are doing is inhumane. It's also unlawful. And the fact that they continue to get away with it, and the only thing that is ever said is just words. The only thing that is done is condemnation by news reporters, myself, and, other podcasters and streamers. The fact that there are actual no ramifications for these actions is the actual problem. And the second protesters actually de-arrest people, then what? Oh, now we got to send more military. Oh, we got to send more law enforcement. Oh, they're interfering. This escalation is really testing the patience of Americans, and it will come to a head. And when it does, it's going to boil over into violence, and it's really going to give them a justification for more authoritarian crackdowns. And what I'm not understanding is, A, why nobody's calling it out for what it is, and B, that even if people do start being violent against these ICE agents, that won't be the spark to overthrow this country's administration in the first place and demand that they stop doing this bullshit by installing somebody else who won't. I don't see this going the way that they think it does, is my point. I don't think you can just piss off the entire country and prove to them that you don't care about their health, their safety, their livelihoods, or their well-being in the slightest, and that you're going to engage in terrorism, assault, and state-sanctioned violence with impunity and not result in the most heavily armed population in the country using those armaments against you. But I also don't want to see it, right? I don't want a violent revolution. A political revolution, yes. A general strike, absolutely. But a violent revolution is going to decimate our society worse than this administration already has. And that is the only possible outcome of this kind of cruelty and this malevolent behavior by ICE against people generally. So, my 2 cents.
Immigrants jailed at the state's largest immigration detention center have asked a federal court to require access to medical care, which they say is needed to prevent immediate death or irreversible harm. One plaintiff held at the California City Detention Facility says he was denied access to cardiac specialists, even though he suffers from pulmonary hypertension and congestive heart failure. Another plaintiff who shows symptoms of prostate cancer has been denied a cancer screening for nearly 4 months.
And this is coming from California, right? The most liberal state in America. I mean, honestly, I don't think the SS, the Gestapo, or Hitler would have been anything other than impressed with what America is doing in these concentration camps with ICE. I honestly, if Hitler, Mussolini, if they came over to America in the present and saw what we were doing to immigrants in this country, to black people in this country, to transgender in this country, they would probably be brought to tears with how impressed they would be with our approach to this. And that's not hyperbole. We think of the Nazis as creating a system to do the systemic eradication of undesirables, and yet we are doing it in broad daylight with complete dissent from the public and without any sort of pushback whatsoever. The Nazis could have only dreamed that they could get away with something like that. So, we are worse than Nazis. Like, we are definitively worse than Nazis with our behavior. And that should infuriate every single American. Not just those who watch this stream, but anyone who finds out or hears about these stories. If you're an American who actually gives a shit about the Constitution and and freedom and democracy, this should fill you with a blind rage.
Meanwhile, a federal judge in Washington, D.C. Wednesday ruled the Trump administration broke the law by limiting Congress members from visiting ICE jails. Officials introduced the policy in June after federal agents interfered with a visit by 3 Democratic Congress members seeking to tour a private prison in Newark, New Jersey, run by Geo Corporation under contract to ICE. New Jersey Democratic Congresswoman LaMonica McIver still faces charges of assaulting an immigration officer during the confrontation, even though she insists she was the one roughed up by federal officers.
Well, it's going to be real funny when I go to one of these detention centers and I immediately start fighting ICE agents. Now, granted, I'm going to see if I can't get a couple of U.S. Marshals to join me on this little adventure, but suffice to say, like, it is Congress's prerogative to go view these detention centers. It's literally their job to do so. They are authorized on account of the fact that they are. They don't need permission from ICE. They don't need permission from anybody. All you need to do is show the fuck up, because it is literally under your jurisdiction. Congress legislates these agencies into existence and has authority and responsibility over them by default. We covered this months ago. So the fact that a judge finally caught up and said, oh yeah, by the way, Congress can do that, is absolutely insane, because that shouldn't have been in question to begin with.
A federal judge has ruled in favor of human rights activist Jeanette Vizquera, stating her detention by ICE in Colorado is unconstitutional, ordering an immediate bond hearing. Wednesday's ruling came 9 months to the day after ICE detained the well-known immigrant rights activist and mother of 4 in Colorado. To see our interviews with Jeanette Vizquera, visit our website, democracynow.org.
So we have political prisoners on top of that. Outstanding.
Republican chair of the Federal Communications Commission, Brendan Carr, contended in a Senate hearing Wednesday the agency under the Trump administration is not independent. Carr was grilled by Democrats over his criticism of the late-night talk show host Jimmy Kimmel and his threats against TV networks that broadcast content that President Trump didn't like.
Is the FCC an independent agency?
Senator, thanks for that question. I think that,
yes or no is all we need, sir. Yes or no, is it independent?
well, there's a test for this in the law, in the key portion of that
Just
test.
yes or no, Brendan?
The key portion of that test
Okay,
is...
I'm going to go to Commissioner Trusty. So just so you know, Brendan, on your website, it just simply says, man, the FCC is independent. This isn't a trick question.
Okay, the FCC
Is it yes or no?
Is not.
Okay.
Is not.
So is your website wrong? Is your website lying?
Possibly. The FCC is not an independent agency.
Before FCC...
Why do we have... Oh, my God. You know, the downside of modern technology and modern society is you can't just be a town crier, right? You can't just go to the town square. You can't just go to City Hall because nobody's there, right? There is no city center. Nobody is at the town hall. Town hall is big buildings or historical buildings or whatever, and people are not walking on the streets. So it's not like I could even be like, hear ye, we have sociopaths in government, listen to me, right? Anymore, that's the internet. That's what TikTok is. That's what YouTube is. That's what Steam is. Or I'm sorry, Twitch. I don't know why I said Steam. And honestly, it's infuriating because there is no... For all the bitching and complaining from the alt-right that they don't have a voice and they constantly get deplatformed, they tend to have a much bigger platform and much greater support from the algorithms, allowing their content to make it to a further reach. But there is no actual platform that I could utilize or that you could utilize to actually reach everybody in your community, right? Like, Columbus, Ohio. There isn't a Columbus, Ohio forum that everybody can just reach. Sure. But Samuel, what about Columbus in the Know Facebook groups? Okay. Well, if you post once, and there's 30,000 people in the group, all 30,000 people aren't going to see your post. You're still likely only going to get 1 or 2 views. It's only the moderators and the admins who tend to get all the biggest traction, or people who post a lot and have a lot of interaction. Again, that shared algorithm response, right? There is no way to be a town crier anymore unless you have the means or resources to do so. And I think people just don't realize how fucked up our government currently is. Largely because it would take multiple videos, multiple town cryings to highlight it all, right? You would have to take every single federal agency, every single chair, and every single deputy, and you'd have to make a 3 to 5 minute video about each and every single one of them. And then you'd have to do the depositions, and then you'd have to do it on the congressmen and the Supreme Court and the senators, right? You'd have, let's just throw a number out there, 1,000 3 to 5 minute videos that would be articulating how egregiously fucked up these individuals are under this administration. And that is the point. That isn't the entire point. There is so much chaos, it cannot be condensed. It cannot be wrapped up in a pretty bow and delivered in a 30-second soundbite. Yeah, sure, the 30-second soundbite is Trump and his entire administration are a bunch of criminals that deserve to be charged with treason and so on and so forth. But that's just, all that is a soundbite. That's it. It's a polarizing statement that you're going to agree with if you agree with it already, and disagree with it if you disagreed with it already. We don't have the attention span as a society anymore to actually be swayed by information, because we can't pay attention long enough to the information to make a decision on that information. It's just constant sound bites. 10 seconds here, 5 seconds here, 30 seconds here. Da-da-da-da-da. Woke this, Democrats that, Biden this, Hillary that, Obama the other, right? Trump this, J.D. Vance that, Kash Patel the other, Supreme Court this, corrupt Congress people the other, right? It's just constant bombardment. And even if you took those 1,000 videos and did condense it to a 5 to 30 second video, that's still an astronomical amount of content that you would have to create and then try and distribute to the masses. Like, we are fucked, because in the information age, we don't actually deal with information. We just deal with the consumption of information. We don't analyze the information. We don't research the information. We just consume, or are bombarded with it. And those are a cultural and societal change that needs to take place that I don't know what it's going to take in order to accomplish, because now we have 2 generations being born into this mess who are already suffering immensely, that can be measurably shown to suffering immensely compared to older generations. And I think that was the War and Peace Report. So, a full hour with Amy Goodman. Speaking of Amy Goodman.
We begin today's show looking at President Trump's primetime address on Wednesday night. And there was widespread speculation that Trump would use the speech to announce military action against Venezuela. But
wait, I don't know. We didn't watch it. So was that the case?
Instead, the 18-minute speech focused largely on domestic issues.
Okay, thank God that he didn't, because that would have been bad.
Including the economy and healthcare. Trump's address comes as his poll numbers continue to fall. A new NPR PBS News Marist poll finds just 36% of Americans approve of the president's handling of the economy. This is how Trump began his speech from the White House.
11 months ago, I inherited a mess, and I'm fixing it. When I took office, inflation was the worst in 48 years, and some would say in the history of our country, which caused prices to be higher than ever before, making life unaffordable for millions and millions of Americans. This happened during a Democrat administration, and it's when we first began hearing the word affordability. Our border was open, and because of this...
I'm pretty sure affordability became a problem under this administration a few months ago. I think that's literally when it started being used. What? I didn't play the ending? Oh, shit.
Welcome to Democracy. The word independent was removed during Carr's testimony. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!
Oh, I see. Well, now we said it.
We begin today's show, new 4-year high of 4.6%.
We're doing what nobody thought was even possible, not even remotely possible. There has never, frankly, been anything like it.
I mean, that's true. I don't think anybody would have ever envisioned a president of the United States being so incompetent and incapable of leadership that he would be singularly responsible for alienating the country from every single one of its allies, undermining NATO, tanking its own economy by literally attacking and terrorizing other countries through economic terrorism and sanctions, while also engaging in piracy and domestic terrorism at home and establishing a secret police force behind all of it. I don't think anybody could have envisioned a would-be fascist dictator going that far, that fast in the United States of America. You're absolutely right.
1 year ago, our country was dead. We were absolutely with a single accomplished through our past and
15-minute shout and also talk about the state of the economy. We're joined by Dean Baker, senior economist at the Center for Economic and Policy Research, author of Rigged: How Globalization and Rules of the Modern Economy Were Structured to Make the Rich Richer. So as you watch this speech from your vantage point in Oregon, Dean, what stood out for you most?
Well, this is kind of a greatest hit of crazy. I mean, if I were one of his staffers, in all seriousness, I'd be wondering about the man's sanity. I mean, this is utterly divorced from reality. I mean, just starting from the word go, that he inherited a mess. No, he inherited a very strong economy. That's not my assessment. That's just universal assessment. I remember The Economist magazine, which is not a left-wing outlet, had a cover story, "The U.S. economy, the envy of the world." This was just before the election last fall. The unemployment rate was at 4%. The economy was growing about 2.5% annual rate. Inflation was coming down to its 2% target. We'd had a boom in factory construction. This was an incredibly strong economy by almost every measure imaginable. So Trump gets in there and says it was dead. This is crazy. I could go on. His immigration stories, 25 million, the numbers that most, it's roughly estimated somewhere around 6 million. Asylum, again, this is another one that you go, oh my God, no one can tell this guy. He thinks that when people come here for asylum, for political reasons, they face persecution in their home country, which is in the law, that they're released from insane asylums. There's just, it just goes on from here. This is utterly removed from reality, and it's a little scary. I mean, this is the man who decides whether we go to war, controls the nuclear weapons. I mean, he is not in touch with reality.
Anna, we need you to get in touch with Dean Baker as well, because Jesus H. Christ. I don't think I have ever seen anybody in any of these videos, whether it's Democracy Now!, the news, or anything else, just be that, not even, this was just something that I would say on stream. This is how he was speaking about Trump right now on Democracy Now! That is truly impressive. I think we need to get Dean Baker somewhere on our team, in our radar. Sam, you can't talk about the president that way. Buddy, he was talking about the president that way. I didn't say shit. Oh, we can't see the name of his org? All right, hold on. We'll let you see it real quick. Oh, looks like I'm still kind of blocking it. There we go. Perfect. But Dean Baker, I need you to find information on this guy. See if we can't reach out to him as well. All right.
I want to go to the issue of health care, which you've written a lot about. Yesterday, the House did pass a bill on health care, but it was to criminalize transgender care for minors.
That was it? That was the whole health care bill? I misunderstood because she said there was going to be people losing health care again. So I thought it was something else. Or is that just one of the provisions of that Republican health care bill?
But when it came to the Affordable Care Act, what Republicans increasingly are concerned about, along with Democrats in the House, that did not pass, the bill that would allow the subsidies for affordable health care to continue for 3 years. So I want to go to 2 clips of President Trump on drugs and on health care.
We're not watching more Trump. Suffice to say, that was a delight. Thank you for putting this video on there. Dean, you're my hero. All right.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We turn now to immigration and the immigration courts. Since President Trump took office in January, nearly 100 immigration judges who are technically Department of Justice employees have been fired, reassigned, or pushed out. That's out of 700 judges nationwide.
Over
The system is
15%.
notoriously backlogged by years, with more than 3 million cases pending. According to the National Association of Immigration Judges, most of the fired judges were in liberal areas like New York, San Francisco, and Boston. Military attorneys are being reassigned as temporary immigration judges, and a new recruitment push is underway. New hires will not be required to have any experience in immigration law.
So it's kind of nuts too, because the administration is literally just looking for sycophants to put in these positions so that they will accomplish the goals of the administration, right? But allegedly, you could just apply to this job as an immigration judge, in the interview disparage immigrants to your heart's content, get hired, and then just pencil whip everybody's immigration application and a giant middle finger to the administration. Like, do they not understand that they are harming their... Honestly, Anna, I'm sorry I keep asking you to do things. Can you write down how to apply or research how to apply to become an immigration judge under this administration? Because I think I'm going to fucking do that too. Like, I don't... Oh, and even... Yeah, I'll apply and whatever else. Maybe we'll do it on stream or something. But if it's literally that anybody can apply and that you don't have to have any credentials and all you have to do is answer the questions as hatefully as possible, like, do you know how easy it would be to infiltrate the immigration court system and actually do good? Like that it shouldn't be that easy to undermine a corrupt and authoritarian government.
The social media recruitment campaign calls for, quote, deportation judges who will, quote, make decisions with generational consequences, unquote. The first immigration judge fired was Tanya Niemer. She was fired without explanation in February. She was appointed to the bench in Ohio in 2023. Tanya Niemer is a Lebanese...
An Ohio judge. Man, Ohio's in the stream today. Damn. Represent.
American with dual citizenship born to immigrant parents. She'd previously run for office as a Democrat. After her firing, she filed a complaint with the EEOC, that's the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, alleging discrimination. But instead of conducting an investigation as required, the EEO dismissed the complaint and made the unusual and extraordinary assertion that anti-discrimination laws do not apply to federal employees. Niemer has now filed a wrongful termination lawsuit in D.C. District Court. We're joined now by Tanya Niemer in Ohio and her attorney, James Eisenman, in Washington, D.C. We welcome...
I guess write down this name as well. Man, we are cooking with oil today. Tanya Niemer. That's another person we want to get a hold of.
Welcome you both to Democracy Now! It might surprise many, Tanya Niemer, to hear that the Trump administration is firing immigration judges, given how many immigrants have to go before judges. Can you talk about what happened to you?
Yes, I was actually in a courtroom full of immigrants and DHS counsel and staff, and I was on the bench on the record. I was ripped off the bench, told that I was terminated effective immediately, and then I was escorted out of the building.
What do you mean you were torn off the bench?
Imagine being in a courtroom for any reason whatsoever, and federal agents remove the judge from the bench in the middle of hearings being presided upon. Like, that is just so breathtakingly... Like, that is how most dystopian, authoritarian, fascist-type movies begin. Look at how this evil dictator starts taking over his country with his goose-stepping, leather-clad miscreants. They're capturing judges and dragging them out of the courthouses. They're dragging politicians out of the courthouses. They're murdering people in the streets, right? And we're doing that in real life. Literally. In real life. Where's AOC? Yeah, great question.
I was literally on the record speaking to the immigrants and to the attorneys, explaining their rights and responsibilities, and I was pulled away in the middle of the hearing while on the record and told that I must be escorted out of the building, and I'm terminated effective immediately.
Based on what?
Great question.
I was not given a reason. I asked the administrative judge. I also asked the chief judge of the United States, who was located in Cleveland, why am I being terminated? And both indicated that they do not know why I'm being terminated.
And why didn't those judges say, and therefore you're not? We're judges. These people have law degrees. You're literally trying to undermine leaders in the judiciary about law by violating the law to remove them in the first place. Like, these are the most eminently qualified people to fuck you up. But then they're not even protecting themselves, each other, right? Like, they're not circling the wagons. Like, I don't even understand anymore. Like, why I mean, I guess Obama should have just ignored Congress, ignored the Supreme Court, and ignored the racists throughout the country, and just ransacked the entire country to do the progressive things that he said he was going to do when he was running for office. Because evidently you can do whatever the fuck you want as brazenly as you want and not have any consequences. Oh my God.
Can you explain what an immigration judge does? When you were hired, when you were appointed, what were you doing?
When I was hired, I was trained for a month in D.C., and our job is to make sure that there's a full and fair hearing for anyone who is in our court. It's to make sure that due process is served, that everyone knows their rights and responsibilities and they have that hearing. It's to make sure that the laws of our United States are followed and implemented, and these hearings are full and complete. We do asylum hearings, adjustments of status, anything that goes before immigration court. Our job is to make sure due process is followed.
Mm-hmm.
And you got fired without due process. Without the process that has to take place in order to fire a fucking... oh my God. I think my throat's feeling a little better, but that doesn't change the fact I definitely should not be crashing out. So... Tanya Niemer, folks, an immigration judge who was taken off the bench in the middle of a hearing without any rhyme or reason or justification given. The Equal Employment Office told her to go fuck herself, and the judges who were superior to her were like, oh, we have no idea what's going on, but we also aren't going to do anything to stop this from happening. We don't have a democracy, folks. Like, I don't know how many different ways this needs to be shown on stream, in the news, by Amy, by just generally looking around you. We do not have a functioning democracy at this time. We have a functioning fascism that is consolidating its power. Possibly good news?
This is Samuel.
Why is this on the TYT Sports channel, though?
Saxon. Samuel is an ICE agent who was arrested. He now joins a list that consists of this man, Gerardo Rodriguez, because he did this.
Car park right now. Put the car park, police. Put the car park, police. Put it in park. Put it in park. All right, get out of the car. Turn it off. Get out. Get out. You're speeding. Sit down here. Oh yeah, sit down. Get your ass down. You have a driver's license?
Also, Alexander Back, a 41-year-old federal agent, because he did this.
This is a tragedy in many respects, but people at the Department of Homeland Security, I know there are great people there that come to work every single day and do their jobs and do it admirably. Unfortunately, Mr. recently married back here is not one of those people. He works for ICE, and he is an auditor for them, a civilian employee. When he was arrested, he said, "I'm ICE boys." Well, unfortunately for him, we locked him up, we put him in our jail. He got reappropriated to our jail, and my understanding is he helped send people to send federal authorities. I think he's going to see some federal authorities because I think the feds are going to take this case.
Why exactly? Because Back was one of many who responded to a fake advertisement posted online by the cops.
In case you want to see the whole fucking message, Bach got stung by an officer claiming to be a 17-year-old, and they were still going to go forward with it on top of child sex trafficking charges. Or I guess for the intent of doing the child sex charges, trafficking. Again, I don't know why this is on the sports channel, but these agents are acting out of pocket. They also, and it's not even, they're not cops, for one. Like the first one that we saw that was pulling a gun on somebody who was speeding. Like, you can't just arrest civilians. Like, I don't know who these people think the fuck they are, but they think they are judge, jury, and executioner, and that's exactly how they are being raised and sent on the streets to act like by DHS. These are domestic terrorists with not even the authority to interact with citizens. So, like, I'm not understanding where any of this is coming from, for one, and for two, why it isn't being punished other than at an individual basis. Like, clearly, ICE needs to be audited, if not shut down. I mean, in my opinion, it needs to be shut down. And that is one of the key things I wish to do in Congress or in the Oval Office, is to shut down ICE and criminally charge every single person in the department and the agency, or who was ever associated and affiliated with the agency, with crimes against humanity and domestic terrorism, because that is exactly what they fucking are. They are literally hiring the scum at the bottom of the barrel. The 1,000%. In fact, I think they're allowing it to fester first in a petri dish, and then putting it in more scum, letting that fester in a petri dish, and just making the worst possible cocktail of scummery that they can. It's despicable. Speaking of insanity, survivor
police in the US state of Ronan.
2 U.S. school shootings. That's just an incredible title.
Island have released enhanced footage of a person of interest in the deadly shooting at Brown University. A masked gunman killed 2 students at the prestigious Ivy League university on Saturday. The FBI has expanded their area of search as the manhunt enters a 4th day. Authorities are appealing for residents near the campus to scour any security footage they may have as they attempt to find the gunman. Well, as the investigation continues, the university community is coming to terms with the tragedy. On Tuesday, students and residents gathered for a church service to remember the victims. Well, the Brown University shooting is the latest in what gun control advocates call an epidemic of gun violence at educational institutions across America. More than 150 such incidents were reported at elementary and high schools so far this year, resulting in...
Damn, are you serious? That's literally one every other day. And if we're talking about actual school days, that's literally almost every single school day. Almost every single school day, because I believe the academic school year consists of 180 days. And that's 159. So literally almost every single day of the academic school year had a school shooting in 2025.
53 deaths. The past decade has seen some especially deadly attacks, like at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, in 2022, where an 18-year-old former student used powerful assault rifles to murder 21 students and staff. Or the 2018 shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, also carried out by a former student who killed 17 students and staff. Well, Zoe Waisman was a student at Westglades Middle School in Parkland. That's adjacent to the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. She was 12 when she witnessed that shooting and heard the gunshots. And on Saturday, she heard them again, this time, though, at Brown University, where she is a student. And Zoe joins us.
Like, how the fuck do you be a 12-year-old, survive a school shooting, grow up another 6-7 years, I don't know what year she is at Brown, but you survived it as a literal child. You graduated high school, you went to an Ivy League university, so she did fantastic for herself academically. And then literally another school shooting 6 or 7 years later. Like, how utterly fucked up is that these kids are literally facing the possibility of enduring a school shooting in their childhood and then again in their university life? That is a fucking problem. It's not one that's going to be resolved with security or increased surveillance. This is a mental health crisis, a severe one, and another issue that really doesn't want to be talked about, an extreme right-wing crisis, because that propaganda is driving the vigilantism of going after woke liberal agendas in our education system. These sociopathic killers, these shooters, think they are serving God, country, and the conservative ideal by shooting children in school. That's where we need to start talking about the real issues.
Live now from Parkland in Florida. Zoe, good to have you with us. So just tell us briefly where you...
No, it's not good to have Zoe with you. This is actually one of the worst times to ever have a person on a show. A person who survived 2 school shootings or was present during 2 school shootings, whatever the case may be. Like, that is the worst thing to be recognized for.
You were at Brown when the shooting happened, what you saw and heard, and how secure is Brown to deal with this type of gun violence?
Thank you for having me. So thankfully, I was in my dorm when the shooting occurred, which was, I'd say, a 5-minute walk away from the building where everything happened. So I got a call from my friend because she was in a dorm a bit closer, and I guess people ran in from the Bears and Holly, the building where it happened, and she asked if I was there, and I told her no, and I could tell something was wrong. And so I asked her if there was a shooting, and she said yes and told me what happened. And so quickly after that, I got the alerts from the school, and then we were on lockdown until 6 a.m. the next day. And so I just was staying updated, speaking with family and friends, watching the news. And in regards to Brown's safety, I do think that they've done as much as a school can do. In a country where guns outnumber people, there's only so much security you can put in place to prevent things like this. That there's definitely things that I know they're going to improve on, like adding more cameras into that building and possibly changing policies regarding swiping into buildings. But honestly, someone can walk in right behind you. So I think that they're doing all they can so far.
And so you survived the Brown shooting.
Which is the point, right? You cannot out-security and out-surveil intent. You just can't do it. And quite frankly, if you want to assault a school, what do you think a closed door is going to do to a bullet? Right? Like, this prop looks like an AR-15. And AR-15s can be, of course, now I look like an idiot because I forgot the word. Not gauged, but can be, wow, I forgot the technical term for it. Wonderful. I don't know anything about guns, apparently. My bad. These can be 5.56, 9mm, 22, 38, they can be a whole many slew of different rounds. That this frame can be. Why can't I think of it? It's not assessed. Just going to put that down. All I'm saying is a rifle round, a pistol round, doesn't matter what the caliber is, can destroy glass regardless, unless it's bulletproof. And do you know how many universities are not going to just make everything bulletproof? Like that would be a ridiculous undertaking when the actual issue is the people who are doing the shooting in the first place. And not having the access to healthcare, the mental health care, and the social support systems that would prevent these kind of activities from happening in the first place. And then this guy's going to ask, well, what else could they do? Oh, is there anything else? Oh, is there any security and safety? Da-da-da-da-da.
A few days ago, and incredibly, you were just 12 years old when you witnessed the Parkland school shooting in Florida back in 2018, I think it was, and that left 17 people dead. That's extraordinary, Zoe. I mean, how does that make you feel?
Yeah. Traumatized.
Yeah, I think when everything was happening on Saturday, I was in shock, and then I became really angry. I think that the fact that this could happen to me, not once but twice, the fact that that's even statistically possible, shows the extent to which gun violence is becoming an epidemic in this country. And the fact that over the past 7 years, I've been involved in gun violence prevention activism, there still hasn't been enough progress to prevent tragedies like this from occurring. I think that says something about what we need to do in this country.
And I understand that as a young child, you were already in therapy, suffering anxiety over the potential for a school shooting, and now you've witnessed not one but two. I mean, what mental health support and resources are available to young survivors and young witnesses of the...
This is the most traumatizing interview I have ever fucking heard that describes youth in America. You're already going through therapy as a child because of fear of school shootings. Then you actually experienced not one, but two of them 6 years apart. Like, bro, that's not... These are not things that should be said out loud ever. These aren't historical events that should ever occur. The fact that it is occurring, the fact that it's even, as she said, statistically possible, should be absolutely a knee-jerk reaction to ensuring it never happens again. Like, we can have guns and regulation and not kill kids for it. Like, we can have it all. You can have your guns, they can be regulated, and kids don't have to fucking die. These are all things that can happen under the same law, legislation, country, whatever have you. But doing what we're doing, which is literally nothing, or worse, deregulation, is clearly not working. True Steel, sorry for ignoring you there. That person would be the second person who has been in 2 school shootings. Oh, wonderful. So there's more. There's a growing number of people who have been in school shootings, plural. Outstanding. Right, and no half-mass or state funerals for these kids. But for domestic terrorists and right-wing extremists, we have to fly the flag at half-staff for, racists like Charlie Kirk. Like, unfucking believable. Damn it, I'm in the wrong screen.
These kinds of shootings.
Yeah, and I think my anxiety regarding that kind of surrounds the generation I'm from. I was the same age as the kids in Sandy Hook were in 2012 when a mass shooting occurred there in Newtown, Connecticut. And so that's kind of been a fear that's been ingrained in a lot of people my age. And so obviously that manifested in anxiety. And thankfully I had the support systems in place when everything happened in Parkland to go into therapy and help me deal with my PTSD. And I think that's something that's incredibly important. The school's providing tons of resources for mental health support. There are also a lot of community members who are school counselors or licensed psychologists that are offering their support for free. And I've been encouraging all of my friends to get professional help because this is such a deeply traumatic problem.
And again, we're allowing our kids, our youth, our next generation, the next generation of Americans, of leaders, of workers, of whatever have you, suffer the same kind of PTSD as soldiers because conservatives don't want to regulate guns? And we're just going to let that be the case. Like, I don't even know how can you have the audacity to say we shouldn't regulate guns and then espouse family values? And that nobody calls them out on it. Like the fact that every time a conservative opens their mouth and says family values, oh, you mean the same family values that allow children to be traumatized from gun violence and school shootings and watching their friends bleed out in front of them because you want them to have rifles from a very young age? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're a sociopath, and you have no business being in office legislating a goddamn thing, let alone public safety.
Just a final thought to you, Zoe. Sadly, we continue to see, as you say, these mass shootings at US schools and universities. As an advocate for gun control, briefly, what's your message to the Trump administration about guns and keeping students safe in schools and places of learning?
I think there's going to be a point where the NRA, some blood money, is not going to be able to hide the fact that the Trump administration is directly accountable for the thousands of people that are dying every single year in this country from gun violence. And until lawmakers as a whole put their people over profits, we're going to see this issue get worse and worse.
Zoe Weissman, many...
I think Zoe Weissman is a bit of a high-profile person to give us any sort of interest whatsoever. Not to say that any of the other people I said figure out how to contact them. But, I mean, honestly, once we get these interns up and running for the campaign, like, I wonder if there's a way that we could coordinate something. I get she's a student herself, but she's obviously a public figure as well. So maybe there's a way to get a hold of Zoe Weissman. Like, maybe we can't get a hold of her now, but can we also add her to the list of people to figure out how to contact? Anna plus Zoe Weissman. We haven't gotten very far at all in this list, but we're an hour and a half deep in this stream.
Breaking news reports just into us. This from the business world on that massive media merger we've been telling you about. This is coming into us in like the last maybe hour with two reports saying Warner Brothers Discovery will tell its shareholders to reject one company's offer to buy them out and instead to pick Netflix. Remember, there was this potential bidding war that was at stake here. Paramount versus Netflix to take over this massive media company. Paramount launched that hostile bid for Warner Brothers not long after WBD announced the Netflix deal. The Netflix offer is for a big chunk of Warner Brothers, but the Paramount gives more cash for the whole thing. Reps did not immediately respond for these companies to our request for comment, but a spokesperson for Jared Kushner's investment company for these companies.
Okay. Netflix is buying, it seems, all of the entertainment elements of Warner Brothers and not the news, which is at least reassuring because at least they aren't consolidating the news. The problem is consolidating entertainment and Netflix's history of just axing series and movies that don't immediately have knee-jerk high appeal is ridiculous. And honestly, I have never watched Supernatural. Never watched it. The other day, I was actually going to start watching it because I was sick and I was at home. And I was like, yeah, fuck it. I got plenty of time. And so I was going to start episode 1, season 1 of Supernatural for the first time. And what do I see? It's going to be removed December 17th. 15 seasons of a series just gone as if it never was on December 17th. And Supernatural is still an extremely popular series from my understanding. I wouldn't know. I didn't watch it. So you're going to give Netflix authority and control over Looney Tunes, DC movies and the cinematic universe, DC, the animated series and so on and so forth. Like, that's not a good thing to do. HBO series, a New Line Cinema series. Like, this is not the right move. Netflix has a propensity of getting rid of shit after it doesn't meet ratings reviews. And it has detrimentally impacted even existing and prolific, what am I trying to say here? Production companies, and impacting their bottom lines because they don't even get to retain the originals. That's part of the thing. You give us everything, and then if we don't like it, we into the void. Like, digital media and the lack of physical media is due to Netflix. So this is still a very bad idea that should not be allowed to happen, and it violates antitrust laws, which are laws preventing this from happening. that are being ignored by this administration.
To our request for comment, but a spokesperson for Jared Kushner's investment company, Affinity, the one that was backing Paramount's offer, tells us the firm is withdrawing from the bid that Paramount is putting forward. All of it is super interesting. Brian Chung is tracking all of this now. And Brian, this is a big deal from a consumer perspective. That's kind of downstream, and also from just like a big sort of economic media perspective as well.
You mean an antitrust?
Hallie, again, what we're talking about here is whether or not it's going to be Netflix or whether or not it's going to be Paramount that's going to be owning a lot of these massive assets under Warner Brothers, most notably Max and HBO Max, their streaming service there. Now, obviously, the big announcement from a few weeks ago was Netflix making this $82.7 billion deal to get Warner Brothers, and then you had Paramount seemingly from the rafters saying that they were going to have this hostile bid. They were going to try to basically will their way to convincing shareholders that they had a better deal. There were some substantial differences in the way that these companies wanted to buy them. Paramount offering to buy the whole company, whereas Netflix is only going to buy basically their movie assets, contingent on Warner Brothers spinning off some of their cable networks like CNN, for example. Now, when it comes to the news that we just got in the last few hours, there are a lot of moving parts here. There are these reports from Bloomberg and the Wall Street Journal suggesting that Netflix is going to be the preferred bidder from Warner Brothers. Again, they will advise Warner Brothers, being their shareholders, to go with the Netflix deal. But you also have some developments on the Paramount front, because a lot of people have been watching that development and saying not only could they be offering more money here, but they also might have the support of President Donald Trump. Why? Because you have Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, endorsing this deal in the form of his a firm called Affinity Partners being part of it. Now we're hearing directly from Affinity. They were telling to NBC News in a statement that they're not going to be part of this deal anymore. This is notable. Again, they said that the dynamics of the investment have changed significantly, and also should be noted, Hallie, we've heard from the president on Truth Social saying he has not been happy with CBS because of some 60 Minutes pieces as of the last few weeks. That might be perhaps related to what happened with Jared Kushner pulling out of this deal, but a lot of things that just happened in the last few hours.
So I guess it's an even better thing that Paramount is looking like they're not going to get it, because one, Paramount was going to control an entire news network, and that was going to be heavily influenced by Jared Kushner, which has direct ties to the administration. And Jared Kushner has already been sticking his nose into the Ukraine-Russian diplomacy aspect. So the fact that, honestly, a corporation is able to undermine the administration better than members of Congress and actually keep the president and the administration's actions at bay better than the Supreme Court, than the governor of California, than the U.S. House of Representatives and Senate, is very telling. Because again, if a corporation has more power than institutions and governments, then then we're in a corporatocracy. Right there is the smoking gun evidence. Jared Kushner pulled out, which would have been the administration effectively pulling out of the deal. Meaning the administration lost a hostile takeover bid of a corporation, but they keep winning every single social, ethical, and institutional battle that they get involved in. That's I'm gonna actually have to save that video, because this is deeply, deeply concerning.
News reports just into us. This from the business.
I don't even know what to say to that.
This was a mutiny of 4 moderate House Republicans defying President Trump and Speaker of the House Mike Johnson in giving the...
I don't think 4 people is a mutiny when the Republicans control the entire House. A mutiny would be if half plus 1 of the Republicans switch sides. That's a mutiny. Being able to actually take over a ship, undermining the captain's orders, right? And the only way you're going to do that is with a majority. So 4 people ain't that.
additional signatures needed to a Democratic-led effort to force a vote on the House floor to extend those expiring Obamacare COVID-era subsidies that are set to run out at the end of this month. And when they do, they'll cause premiums for more than 20 million Americans to skyrocket. Now, Speaker Mike Johnson telling me he doesn't believe this is an act of defiance, but the reality here is that he and GOP leaders had been blocking a vote on extending these subsidies, calling for broader reforms to Obamacare first, and GOP leaders overnight passing their own alternative health care plan that focuses on lowering overall health care costs, sending it over to the Senate, but it doesn't address those expiring subsidies. Now that a vote has been forced on this issue, it will come up, but likely not until the new year. After these tax credits expire, lawmakers are leaving for the holidays today. The House canceling votes that were planned for tomorrow. They're going to leave for their holiday break a day early.
Just hear me. You know, I'm gonna do a close up for this. Just hear me out. I'm speculating here. Where the fuck does Congress get off going home for vacation and not voting on something that can and will impact 20 million Americans in the most detrimental way possible, when most Americans don't even get PTO in the first fucking place for the holiday season? And they're leaving tomorrow, right? So that's the 19th. And they're not going to come back until sometime in January. I mean, they didn't give a specific date, but that's at least 2 weeks. So where does Congress get off giving themselves a 2-week vacation when most Americans don't get a 2-week vacation for Christmas, let alone throughout the year, on account of it's not guaranteed at all to get any vacation in America, let alone sick days? Again, our Congress is so breathtakingly corrupt, I don't even think they see it anymore. Certainly not the ones that are advocating for corruption in the first place. This is why I am so vehemently against establishment politicians and anyone currently in office. Because if you don't have the fortitude to push back, I don't care if you're at the local, the state, or the federal level. If you're watching criminal behavior unfold before you, undermining of democracy, undermining of constitutional laws, rights, privileges, and whatever else have you, and you're doing nothing, not even a single peep, not bending over backwards to prevent that shit from happening, then you shouldn't be in office. And the fact that a majority of our government at every single level in our country caters to corruption, power, and corporations is the entire fucking problem. We need a complete reset, and they need to be removed and then disallowed from ever entering politics ever again. And then we need to hold special elections from top to bottom for only populist candidates, or candidates who are just regular citizens. Because these politicians, these career politicians, these attorneys, these lobbyists, these tech billionaires, they are clearly unqualified and have a vested interest in undermining our institutions and our society. Just my thoughts. Okay.
Former Justice Department Special Counsel Jack Smith is sitting for a closed-door deposition with House Republicans this hour. House Judiciary Committee members digging into his investigations into President Trump. Smith arrived on Capitol Hill moments ago, as you see here, and this deposition is part of an ongoing investigation into criminal inquiries of President Trump during the Biden administration. Smith, as you'll remember, led the investigations into Mr. Trump's efforts to overturn his 2020 presidential election and the classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach, Florida. CBS News Department of Justice reporter Jake Rosen joins us now from our D.C. bureau with more on this. Really fascinating, Jake, to know this is happening behind closed doors with lawmakers right now. What questions do we expect Jack Smith to answer, considering all of his cases were moot since Mr. Trump became president once again.
Well, Smith's representatives and legal team have said that he's open to answering any questions that these House Republicans have. They actually offered earlier this year, Errol, to go in front of both the House and Senate publicly for everyone in America to see the person who brought these high-profile charges, as you noted, have since been dismissed, but at least be held accountable in the public eye and to defend his work. There have been so many misconceptions and, frankly, Errol, attempts to rewrite the work of Jack Smith by the Trump administration and Republicans in Congress.
Okay, well, we don't need to listen to speculation. I thought this was actually going to summarize what he was actually talking about. What do we got here?
The Department of Justice is investigating more than a dozen cases of sexual harassment by landlords against female tenants. The cases span...
I can see I'm not going to be calm at all. This is one of thousands of reasons why landlords should not exist. Anytime you can hold power over somebody for something that they need in order to survive, and then make a profit over that, invites the worst kinds of people to engage in that activity. So no, universal public housing is an actual public safety investment. Landlords are a public safety threat. Period. End of story. This notwithstanding.
Multiple states, including New York, Kansas, Michigan, and Minnesota. So let's go live to CBS News Justice correspondent Scott McFarland. Scott, thank you for joining us today. What more can you tell us about this case?
Our CBS News review found a scourge of these federal sex harassment cases, civil cases filed against major landlords in different communities across America, with a piece of connective tissue between the cases. Landlords accused of leveraging their ability to withhold housing or withhold repairs to try to extort women to return sexual favors for their housing. This is criminal behavior. In some cases, it's also a civil violation of the Federal Housing Act, which prohibits harassment of tenants in housing across America. And what our case review found was that the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division is trying to exact civil penalties against some of these alleged.
So they're only going for the civil penalties, not the criminal ones? Are you... I see I'm not going to be able to keep my cool on this video. Suffice to say, the Department of Justice is going to fine landlords who extorted women for sexual favors in order to have the house that they fucking paid for and the repairs that they were fucking owed on account of being lessees. Again, landlords are fucking parasites to society, are a clear and present danger to society, and just because not all landlords are like this, all landlords withhold housing that other people could otherwise afford, which is a clear and present danger to society. And I am vehemently against the very existence of privatized housing anywhere, let alone in America. And the Department of Justice are such brazen cowards and worthless pieces of scum that they won't even criminally prosecute these landlords for the crimes, the criminal crimes, the actual jail-inducing crimes that they committed against these women. And our own Anna could have been a victim had things turned out slightly differently. Like there are 0 degrees of separation. 0 degrees of separation. What the fuck is this?
Welcome back, everyone. It's no secret that being a judge in an American courtroom comes with pressure and responsibility. But in the past year, state and federal judges say they've been bombarded by unprecedented threats to their safety, to their family's safety, and to the rule of law. Tonight, our Devin Dwyer is given the rare opportunity to hear directly from judges on what they faced and the surprising way some in Minnesota are using music to cope in these divisive times.
Are you serious? Judges are creating a fucking musical band to counteract the threats against them? I mean, yeah, I guess this is a little bit less nonsensical than the other shit we've been covering today.
Times.
For Justice Ann McKeag, deciding cases on the Minnesota Supreme Court these
Does this bitch have a Donald Trump doll in the background? Are you fucking serious? This right here. Are you... Oh, no, that's a picture frame. Probably... Never mind. I jumped the gun. I'm sorry. I jumped the gun. He wanted me to give him permission to come to my apartment twice a month. He also asked me how often my partner was out of town. I could see where this was going. I thought I deleted that video. I guess you didn't. But, yeah, that I think actually I remember you telling me that. I was like, no, do not sign a lease with that guy. You are going to be assaulted or worse. Did you end up reporting him? Because I think I encouraged you to do that as well. But you don't have to answer because that's obviously PII kind of stuff. But that does look like a Donald Trump doll. It really, you know what?
Music to...
For Justice Ann...
Nah, I think it's a picture frame of some sort. It just really, really closely looked like a Donald Trump doll for a second there. Yeah, I really don't know that I give a damn about this video. I'm sorry. But you said you also were going to get rid of it, so I feel like I'm...
President Trump is standing by his White House chief of staff after a series of striking interviews with Vanity Fair. Susie Wiles providing a rare window into the West Wing, describing the president as having an alcoholic's personality, saying Trump, who does not drink, operates with a view that there's nothing he can't do. Nothing, zero, nothing. Then going on to label Vice President J.D. Vance a conspiracy theorist for a decade, describing his transformation from Trump critic to supporter as sort of political. Vance brushing it off.
No, that's exactly what it was. There is no other definition for it. You don't call Trump a terrorist and a Nazi and then become his VP unless you're vying for something in politics and trying to use him to get there.
Sometimes I am a conspiracy theorist, but I only believe in the conspiracy theories that are true.
What an idiotic thing to say. I only believe in the conspiracy theories that are true. Well, I believe in aliens. We have no proof that aliens exist other than the statistical reality that there is no possible way in the grand cosmos we're the only life in existence. Okay? And now, does Area 51 have aliens? I don't know. I would love to be able to do videos and stories and streams about alien conspiracy, but we have so much dystopian shit happening that we can't even do fun stuff. Do you know why we're doing Recap Thursdays? It's because we were playing video games on Thursdays. We were streaming 3 days a week. Tuesday for U.S. news, Wednesday for worldwide news, Thursday was letting our hair down, playing video games. And you know what? They kept getting interrupted by Israel murdering Palestinians, by Trump doing something asinine and ridiculous. It kept interfering even though we stream at night. So, God forbid we try and do an Alien Conspiracy Friday, and then it's like, oh, breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. This shit needs to stop and slow down. That's especially insulting because Trump doesn't drink because his brother died of alcoholism. Yeah, I don't buy that he doesn't drink, though. I mean, really? Of all the things he doesn't do, we're going to believe he doesn't drink? Or of all the things he has done, we're going to believe he's not drinking? Come on. I find that's a conspiracy that he doesn't drink. I mean, whatever.
And this morning, the president dismissing the comments too. In an interview with the New York Post saying, "I don't drink alcohol, so everybody knows that. But I've often said that if I did, I'd have a very good chance of being an alcoholic. I've said that many times about myself, I do. It's a very possessive personality." But Wiles also comments on the...
That was like the most surprisingly introspective thing I've ever seen come out of that piece of shit's mouth.
The president's cabinet, criticizing Attorney General Pam Bondi, saying she completely whiffed the Justice Department's response to the onslaught of demands calling for the release of files on convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Wiles telling Vanity Fair she
and then spent 9 months denying it ever existed.
read the Epstein file and that Trump is in it, but she says not doing anything awful. Wiles said that Trump was on Epstein's plane. He's on the manifest, saying they were, sort of young single whatever. I know it's a passé word, but sort of young single playboys together. As the controversy
Young single playboys who were very well known for engaging with minors. So is that not an admission of guilt? Is that not testifying that yes, he was engaging in these acts with Epstein because they were two birds of a feather, or two birds of a feather. That didn't sound right for a second. Oh, right. And Trump wasn't single. He was married when he hung out with Epstein, on top of everything else.
surrounding Epstein swirled for months, President Trump has fought efforts to release the Epstein files and ordered the Justice Department to investigate Epstein's relationship with Democrats, including former President Bill Clinton.
I never went to the island, and Bill Clinton went there supposedly 28 times.
But Wiles says there is no evidence Clinton ever visited Epstein's private island.
Which is crazy, right? Because I don't think anybody, Democrat, Republican, or otherwise, thought Clinton was innocent. People were like, yeah, no. Take Clinton. That's fine. We'll give you Clinton. We don't give a shit. Fuck Clinton, right? And then it turns out he's exonerated by the evidence. Like Clinton, of all the things that man is guilty for doing, the one thing he apparently actually didn't do is go to Rape Island. Which is nuts. Because literally everybody was like, yeah. Hey, we'll give you Clinton as long as you give us Trump. Like, we were ready. People broadly across the political spectrum were like, I mean, come on. It's Bill Clinton. Of course he did. And then it turns out, what? He didn't. Whereas Trump shows up the most in the Epstein files. But he did fly on the Lita Express over 24 times. Bill is a known sex pest, so we don't care. Right. That's kind of the thing, right? Clinton is kind of already besmirched, so just tack that onto the list and then throw the book at him, right? And it's not like they didn't do bad things on the Lolita Express either. It just didn't necessarily go to the island. But then again, why would you just do a couple of loops over DC and come back as well? Like, that wouldn't make sense either. Point being, it's crazy that Bill Clinton was actually exonerated for things that people were more than happy to condemn him for.
And that the president was wrong when he suggested the files include incriminating information on Clinton. The president has publicly pressured his own attorney general to prosecute his perceived political rivals, like former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James. Prosecutions rejected by a judge and grand juries. Wiles says, I don't think he wakes up thinking about retribution, but when there's an opportunity, he will go for it.
Which is criminal behavior, especially of a president.
In response to the interview, President Trump also says that Susie Wiles has done a fantastic job. Wiles herself calls this reporting in these articles from Vanity Fair disingenuous, saying that it's a framed hit piece. But she does not dispute any of her quotes, and Vanity Fair says they're all on the record and they are all recorded, Michael.
That's the best part. She threw Trump under the bus and is now saying, pearl clutching, and Trump is actually backing her up on top of it. Like that, I mean, that would only be possible in a comedy such as Idiocracy. And it's happening in reality. Like, that's just well, since we're on the Epstein conversation.
All right, let's get to Epstein. Some great new reporting over from Dropsite. Let's go ahead and put this up here on the screen. This is one of the long-time major questions of Jeffrey Epstein is how did he get all of this money? All roads seem to trace back to Les Wexner, the Victoria's Secret seclusive billionaire who is very pro-Israel. Now, we have learned...
Les Wexner? Is that what he just said?
Secret seclusive billions seem to trace back to Les Wexner.
Les Wexner. The same Les Wexner? Okay. It's named after Harry Wexner, but somehow it says Les Wexner here. So let's see what the OSU says. Yeah, it's Ohio again, but for like the worst reason. So that's not great. Was recently renamed in honor of the most committed leaders and benefactors, Leslie H. Wexner from 59. One of dedicated leaders and most passionate supporters for decades, and someone who continues to make an indelible impact on our community, and was apparently bankrolling Epstein. Jesus H. Christ. We may as well put Hitler's... Like, this is the equivalent of the Joseph Goebbels University Medical Center, or the Himmler, I don't know, Research Center. Like, are you fucking serious? Okay. Sure.
Victoria's Secret seclusive billionaire who is very pro-Israel. Now, we have learned from Dropsite and from many of the emails, which I was able to read also some myself, the primary source documents, is specifically about how he ran Leslie Wexner's pro-Israel philanthropy machine much more than Les Wexner and the philanthropy later on claims. So let me explain a little bit of that. Basically, what they were able to report is that after his death, and what we learned is that the Wexner Foundation, which is a longtime supporter of Zionist politics, and including paying Ehud Barak millions of dollars, the former prime minister of Israel, to author 2 reports, one of which he never even finished, was directed largely by Epstein in such a way that they were asking Epstein directly, or Wexner and the foundation were saying directly, quote, ask Jeffrey about how to spend the money. Remember, there's all these questions from Epstein himself and his relationship with Wexner. Wexner signed power of attorney over him to manage his money. He gifted the famous mansion to him. Why would somebody who is ultra wealthy give such power over their own estate and billions of dollars over to their acquaintance? This is one of the ultimate mysteries. You can have your own theories. I certainly do, but nothing has ever really been confirmed on the story. I think the central part of it, though, is that the emails reveal how central he was to dispersing money from Leslie Wexner's charity, many on behalf of Zionist and pro-Israel causes, and to the point where you can actually see that Wexner's claims later on about how what Les Wexner had claimed he was just a whiz with money, that he had nothing on me, and that it was a very normal relationship, and he severed his ties. And he also claimed that his control over the foundation wasn't nearly as total as what we now know. And so I encourage everybody to go and read this report because it shows you very, very clearly how much control he actually had.
Is there a link to this report? Or are you just telling us to look at it? Really? You're just not gonna... Really? You're just... Go read this report. No links. No nothing. I mean, I don't know that we need to watch the rest of it, I guess, because most of the information's in the report, and I guess... But suffice to say, the same Les Wexner, whose name is on one of the most prestigious medical centers in the country, was that kind of close to Epstein and was integral to Epstein's rise to power and having the influence and finances to run his empire and intelligence network globally. Because again, Epstein wasn't just a sex trafficker. That was actually his side hustle. That's what he did for love of the game. He was actually a power broker and an intelligence broker, working on behalf of Israel in most cases, but behind the scenes between various nations.
The greatest country in the world is the United States of America. Absolutely. But how it's founded on balance and fairness and opportunity, that's how it remains great. Not because you start taking opportunity away from people.
Right.
Because you're affording them opportunity. Let's just keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
And it can all get better, for sure.
And it's the rare country that is almost entirely founded by people moving here.
It's all immigration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the strength, and also, you know, the problem with the last 4 years was that they were just letting anybody in. And the problem.
Dude, we are an entire nation of immigrants. There is not a single American citizen who was actually here first. Other than, I guess there are exceptions. There are Americans, let me rephrase. 1700 and, back in what, 16, whatever it was, with the original colonies in Massachusetts. 400 years ago, when we were still colonies, we were invaders. We were colonizers. And from there, that European descent proves the fact that we weren't part of this continent, right? The only people who have the right to call themselves non-immigrant Americans, the only people who have that right, are Mexicans or South Americans who moved into the United States after it was formed and or were already mixed with the Mexican people. Because Mexico went from Washington over through, I want to say, parts of Montana and down to like that kind of imagined line. I think it was everything to the left of the Louisiana Purchase was Mexico. The indigenous peoples to these lands. On top of the other indigenous peoples like the Comanche, the Sioux, the Iroquois, the Blackfeet, and so on and so forth, right? So, unless you're indigenous or unless you're Mexican, you're an immigrant in this country. Well, I was born here, so I'm an American. Yeah, sure. After the founding and due to the this, that, and the other, sure, fine. You're indigenous to the lands because your conquering ancestors settled down here. But if you want to be brass tacks honest, if you are of white descent at all, you are an immigrant. Many generations ago, sure, or up to many generations ago, but fundamentally you're an immigrant. So there were so many people and they were letting just anybody in here. Motherfucker, we were just allowed to come in here. The native tribes could have massacred us at that time because we didn't have the resources. We didn't have the infrastructure. We didn't have the numbers to survive a full frontal assault from the native tribes that were here already. That's why the Vikings weren't here already to begin with, 500 years sooner, because they kept getting their asses kicked by native tribes. Immigrants built America, and we would not be a country without the help of France. Exactly. That is 1,000%. All right. We're going to watch these next 3 videos. I am not going to comment on these next 3 videos. I will comment at the end of these next 3 videos. But we need to watch them.
Leave me alone!
Video obtained by CNN shows federal agents wearing ice vests chasing a woman back to her home in Murraya, Louisiana, a suburb of New Orleans. Jacelyn, 22-year-old mother, says she's a U.S. citizen who was born and raised in Louisiana. She asked that her last name not be used to protect her privacy. She says she was walking home from the grocery store when the masked agents attempted to approach her a few feet from her house. Jacelyn can be heard yelling at the men as she runs towards her home.
Leave me alone!
Moments later, a man identified as Jacelyn's stepfather is heard yelling at the agents before they are seen heading back to a vehicle.
Paul, you forget me? No, you're the one making the statue. We weren't even looking for you. So get over here. Right. So what are you looking for? This is a public area. Okay, what's the you want? I don't want to speak to you. Well, I don't want to talk to you either. You're the one talking to me. Hispanic people against Hispanic, bro.
CNN has reached out to the Department of Homeland Security for more information.
Nope, can't do it. A federal agent with a warrant can step on your property and execute the warrant. Bounty hunters cannot step on your fucking property. It's one of their rules, right? Because that would be going beyond the role of a civilian. So those are bounty hunters. Most of these viral videos are clearly bounty hunters engaging in domestic terrorism. And we are not doing a fucking thing about it as a country. How do we know if we're getting abducted by random people or by ICE? You don't. They have to have a warrant for that address, exactly. You don't. That's kind of the problem. It would be assumed that ICE agents would actually have an official warrant and these bounty hunters are just going after brown people. But even then, card-carrying members of ICE have also refused to show papers that they had the right and authorization to be there in the first place. So you don't. And quite frankly, resisting unlawful arrest is not even protected anymore. I think we discovered that. So, according to AI, no less, July 12th, Levine Law Firm. If you are arrested unlawfully, it may be tempting to resist, but doing so can lead to serious legal consequences. Instead of resisting, it is better to understand your rights and take action later in the legal process. Here's why it's important to avoid resistance and what you can do if you're arrested without cause. The general rule is that you cannot legally resist an arrest, even if you believe it is unlawful. When law enforcement arrests you, they have authority over the situation, and resisting can result in additional charges or even physical harm. Even if it's wrongful, it's best to comply and address it later with legal counsel. I'll leave that up here. I'll move my mouse. So if you're watching this later, feel free to pause. See, this is the fucking thing that pisses me off, right? In the state of Ohio, this actually is not, in fact, as clear-cut as you think. In the state of Ohio, they have up to 96 hours to charge you with something after they fucking arrested you. Ask me how I know. So yeah, some states will actually allow their arresting officers to wait an arbitrary amount of time before actually charging you, which is in violation of your Miranda rights, your due process, your constitutional rights. You know, I was going to try and rest my throat, but that just,
Information.
Immigration arrests.
Yeah. So, suffice to say, I guess you'll know the difference if an ICE agent or, how did you phrase that? Random people. The random person won't be brazen enough to follow you on your property. An ICE agent will, but might also produce a warrant. And if you get arrested by a cop at all, you no longer have the right to resist unlawful arrest. They can just do whatever the fuck they want. Again, undemocratic, unsafe. We do not have a functioning democracy, and these are things that need to be addressed. But once ICE takes you, you don't even know where you will end up. You could end up in El Salvador. Correct. So you don't have the right to self-defense or to resist unlawful arrest. But if you don't, you might end up in a death camp. So do with that information what you will.
In Alabama are spiking, even for children as young as 9 years old. My name is Hannah Denham, and I'm a reporter here at AL.com in Alabama. I've been looking at the numbers behind ICE enforcement here. Across the country, ICE has been carrying out Trump's deportation efforts, and in some cases, local police are stepping in to help. And yet, Alabama is on that list too. ICE has popped up at construction sites in Spanish Fort, restaurants in Birmingham, and other spots across the state. We've even seen people detained at City Hall, like in Jemison. Alabama immigration arrests increased 8% from July, putting the total number for 2025 at 5,746 people. September alone saw 367 people detained, more than double the amount from 2 years ago. So far, the youngest person arrested this year was a 9 or 10-year-old boy from Guatemala, and the oldest person was a 76-year-old man from Mexico. 89% of the arrests were men, and most were from countries in Latin America, like Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, Venezuela, and El Salvador. Traffic violations are the most common charge, and violent crimes are super rare. Less than 2% for homicide and about 2% for sexual assaults. Most people, or about 75%, had pending charges but no convictions. So why the spike all of a sudden? More cops are teaming up with ICE through 287G agreements to push more mass deportations. This program basically lets local law enforcement act like federal agents. Counties like Etowah, Elmore, Lawrence, Limestone, and Pike, and others are all in on the program. Almost all arrests came out of ICE's New Orleans field office. County jails in about 58 counties saw a big chunk of the arrests, but a lot of the locations in the data are still vague. Right now, it's still unclear what this will mean for Alabama's economy, but folks across our state are already feeling the impact as more and more deportations split up families. And there's no telling what will come as we go into 2026.
You know, he was saying, I'm going to put
traffic violations. And we can thank Obama for that. He started deporting people due to traffic violations, calling them criminals. Yeah, no. And what's worse is that being here illegally is about the equivalent of having a traffic violation in the first place. And on top of that, a traffic violation is not grounds for being kidnapped and trafficked in broad daylight. So
lights up on the house.
Outside their Arlington home.
You know, even when I walk in the garage.
And in.
Everything is a reminder. The baby's a reminder. Me pongo a pensar,
Stephanie Goffany lives with constant memories of her late husband. The latest?
Yeah, the letter is a reminder.
A letter that came in the mail Monday.
It was under his name. I had no idea what it was. Opened it and instantly just started crying, because first thing you see is approval. You've been approved.
Miguel Garcia was a 31-year-old husband, father of 5, and Mexican national, who Goffany says worked hard to try to obtain legal status to live in the U.S.
I said it's something we were waiting for 2 years.
This letter from U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services paves the way to make that happen by granting approval to begin the process of obtaining a visa or green card.
It's right before Christmas time. And it's hurtful because if he would have been here, it would have been the total opposite. It would have been a moment of happiness.
Garcia was arrested for DWI in Arlington in August and was being held at the Dallas ICE facility in September when a rooftop sniper opened fire, killing 2 detainees, including Garcia.
I remember covering that story. I don't really think they revealed the identities of the killed individuals. But the worst part of all of this is that ICE should have known that he was dead and then approved his citizenship application regardless and then mailed it out to the fucking like, this is just... This has to be for the sake of cruelty. Like, ha ha ha, he's dead. We would have approved him. Or we're going to approve him now that he's dead. Because the only kind of immigrant we want in this country is a dead one.
TSA is now sharing every passenger's data with ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Every single passenger. What does it mean for you if you're a green card holder, here on a visa, or without any papers? All the data, all the information in this video. Hello everybody, and welcome back to Immigration Channel. In this video, we'll talk about the new announcement we just heard about a week ago. That
Dude, get to the fucking
about
point.
Traveling inside the United States. I'm not even talking about being undocumented. I'm talking about people that have green cards and they are going through, maybe you had a DUI or maybe you had some other conviction and you're worried about traveling in the United States because now ICE has your information. Whether you're on a visa and maybe you are going through transition, you filed an extension, you don't have clear status. How is this going to impact your ability to travel, not being delayed in the course of moving from one city to another inside the United States? We think that this share of information will create a major disruption in travel, and you need to know about it. So,
okay, this motherfucker's not getting to the point, and he has a fairly small channel. And I guess we have another video with this guy, but it's a much shorter one. TSA is also sharing data with ICE. ICE is becoming the domestic CIA. And I think the CIA is literally popping champagne every single night, just tears streaming down their faces. Finally, they can engage in terrorism on the home front and go after citizens with absolute impunity. Like, this is the CIA's wet dream, to be able to operate on the homeland. And ICE is, I think, going to be that wing of theirs. And the fact that every agency is coordinating with ICE and cooperating with ICE, while that massively violating our privacy and personal rights and freedoms and just all this fun stuff, I don't think the CIA could have envisioned a better set of circumstances than what we're seeing today. So once again, if you're an immigrant or you aren't, I mean, I don't even know how to, if you're just, I guess don't leave your house if you're brown. That's the message being sent by this administration. Don't fly, don't travel, don't go to work, don't go to school, don't leave your house. Because if we see you in public, we're going to come for you. Might be time to do the whole free state of Jones again if you don't lick Trump's boots. I mean, honestly, I don't advocate for a violent revolution, and I don't think a violent revolution would solve our problems. But some sort of civil unrest and dissent that is consistent for at least a 90-day period is something that we definitely want to start seeing happening sooner than later. Let's see the smaller clip because it should be more direct.
Breaking news. ICE is stopping immigration raids until further notice. No more busting people at Home Depot or snatching people in the street. That's all gone for now. Why? Trump's approval rating is so low, it's below 33%. And they said ICE grabbing citizens, US citizens in the street, pulling them out of cars is no cool. From now on, we'll be focusing on criminals, severe overstay violations, stopping people at traffic stops, and working with other agencies like the TSA, police departments to try to find criminal and visa violators. Seeing ICE agents burst into schools, arresting parents in front of their kids is not good for the
I don't even know what I would do if I found out federal agents kidnapped my child in school. I do know what I would do. And I would not be able to have a stream next week for sure. I don't understand how these blatant acts of terrorism aren't being described as anything less. I don't get it. But that's what they said they were doing in the first place, only going after criminals, right? And then if accountability mattered to this administration, and if anybody would actually follow through, right? That's why we're running for office. That's why we're running for Congress in Ohio's 15th district. I think I do need a quick break. Let me. And we're back. Sorry, I needed to walk. I needed to walk away. I say it loud and proud. Free state of Colorado. I wear my fuck Trump shirt with pride. If I say what I would do if feds came onto my property without a real warrant, I'd be banned from Twitch. And I'm well-versed in how to tell a real warrant from a fake or administrative one. See, I'm not well-versed, per se, but the sentiment is definitely the same, Steve. It is 100% shared. Yeah, I guess I should get versed. All right.
Questions. I have one on Venezuela to follow up, but first on affordability, since we were talking about the economy at the beginning. If the economy is as strong as the president has said it is, then why is he telling parents 2 weeks before Christmas that they should only buy 2 or 3 dolls for their children?
Look, what the president is saying is that if we want products made right here in America, if we want them to be made from American small businesses, which is a large part of the reason the president has effectively implemented tariffs, then we're going to have better quality products right here in the United States. Maybe you'll pay $1 or $2 more, but you will get better quality and you'll be supporting your fellow Americans by buying.
That doesn't make any bit of sense.
American, and that's what the president was saying. Again, with respect to affordability, every economic metric, Caitlin, and I wish you would report more on it, does in fact show that the economy is getting better and brighter than where it was under the previous administration. I will repeat.
It literally isn't. Like, wow. No, that's the wrong thing. Those are all outlooks. Well, we can't actually trust the Department of the Treasury, but let's see what they say. Let's just see, for the sake of argument, what they have to say. So, GDP went up 2.8% or something. Total payroll job growth averaged 51,000 a month. Yeah, so no, these are blatant lies. Because that's not how that's literally not what that was. And yeah, of course, inflation. No. Okay. Are there? So the Department of the Treasury is literally lying. How about this one? Nope, that's outlooks. So, nope, it's still not. I guess we're really not getting good information here. Because our own government is lying about the numbers. I mean, fundamentally, it says that consumer prices are up from March. And this was reported in April. That's also from March. Ooh, the Federal Reserve. Gross. That's going to be fun. Those are projections, though, so that's, yeah. So, that's kind of nuts that Google will not give honest feedback about the growth. 2024 was strong around GDP growth, with 2025 experienced a slowdown with growth under 2%. But when we clicked on the link, it's not showing us that information. In 2025, the growth of real GDP is 0.5% lower than the projections. 25 and 2025. Where's the real numbers? Yeah, we've been underperforming every single metric. Every single metric has been underperforming. And this is from the government. So, I don't... The economy has not actually improved at all, Caroline.
Inflation,
even by your own
as
reporting.
measured by the overall CPI, has slowed to an average 2.5% pace. Real wages are increasing, roughly $1,200 for the average worker. Gas prices are down in...
$1,200 isn't even an average dollar raise. Do you understand that a $1 raise is $2,080? That's what $1 raises give you. So we're talking about 60, maybe 70 cents of raises is the average raise of workers. And they're patting themselves on the back on that. Geez. And Trump is now announcing the Patriot Games in honor of the 250th. Real-life Hunger Games are coming. I said it years ago, Trump is a real-life president now. Yeah, that should be interesting to say the least.
Almost every single state across the country. Again, in 22 states, it's below 275. You look at the tax cuts. Those are going to go into effect next year. So the best is yet to come. The president is digging our country out of the economic hole that the previous administration put us in, and that's what he's talking about.
It was a year ago, as you know, and grocery prices have been up. So we've covered the economy, but there's mixed signals in terms of what that looks like. But on
inflation is down from where it was. As measured by the overall CPI, it has slowed to an average 2.5% pace. This is down from what the president inherited. The president inherited 2.9%.
See, you can't even watch these because they're just bickering like school children. But suffice to say, whatever numbers she's reading aren't even the numbers that are being reported by the government. So, okay.
On this Monday, we're getting brand new insight about the guest list for an annual hate conference at a state park right here in Middle Tennessee. And we've now discovered it includes people who have celebrated political violence. Good evening, everyone. I'm Rory Johnston. Carrie is off. The American Renaissance Conference has been coming to the area since 2012, yet not much has been known about the cast of characters who attend.
Okay, I'm sorry. The American Renaissance, whatever, has been meeting in your city for 13 years and y'all haven't stopped it? Are you fucking kidding me? And now you're reporting on it like, oh, look at these bad people. How about the fact that this has been going on for over a fucking decade? Are you fucking kidding me?
That is until now. News Channel 5 Chief Investigative Reporter Phil Williams was there 3 weeks ago when the conference returned to Montgomery Bell State Park in Dixon County. Phil is with us now, and I know you've been working hard to figure out who you were actually seeing come into that place, right?
That's right, which was not something that the conference organizers liked at all. As it turns out, there's probably a good reason.
If you are not here to celebrate and lift up love, what are you doing here? Why would you provide hope?
Among the changing colors of the season,
Here for the conference? What's your last name?
Are you shitting me? There are cops? There are cops acting as ushers for this hate group meeting in a public park. and cops are somehow the good guys. And this has been going on for 13 years.
Came from across the country for a conference where the only color that really matters is white.
But because there are 200 or 300 people in that building over there that believe only they belong in this country.
Here at Tennessee's Montgomery Bell State Park, protesters were kept far from attendees at the American Renaissance Conference, an event that, as the protesters see it, represents the worst of the world of hate.
And we want our message of
This is how white supremacy wins. This is how fascism wins. It's because these groups are not charged as the criminals that they fucking are. It is not political to disparage. It is not political to be discriminatory or bigoted. It is not political. It is a fucking crime, and it violates the 14th Amendment. Period. It's not a political opinion. It is a crime, and it needs to be treated accordingly. S70 Ghost. Yeah, you can jot everybody down on this stream as unequivocally against Trump, and that he needs to be charged in the United States for crimes against humanity, undermining the Constitution, and also be charged internationally for war crimes and crimes against humanity as well, and hopefully executed at The Hague. So, I hope that helps your report.
tolerance and acceptance to stand in stark contrast to what they're advocating for in there.
Exactly what they advocate inside the park's lodge is a closely guarded secret, as is the guest list, which is what led us to stake out the security checkpoint.
The fact that park rangers are protecting white supremacists meeting in a secret meeting. Are you... Oh my God.
Standing in a public spot in a public park where we found some attendees desperate to hide from our cameras. For this woman, it was an effort that required both hands.
It's my understanding that you have been providing these pictures for the past year.
And this man, a longtime American Renaissance speaker and attorney who has represented the Klan and other hate groups, accused us of working with domestic terrorists. So when he stopped to take pictures, I decided to confront his questions directly. Did you have any questions for me?
Well, I'd be happy to ask you. Y'all are with Channel 5?
I am with Channel 5. I'm Phil Williams.
Hi, I'm Sam Dixon. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Sam.
The reason is we have reason to be concerned because we had lost a couple of people with a group called Antifa.
Is Antifa in the room here with you now? Is Antifa in the woods?
And they have tried to prevent us from having our meetings. And
I assure you, I'm not Antifa. Back at the checkpoint, we saw some familiar faces. Hello, Thomas. How are you, sir? That's Thomas Rousseau. He's the leader of the Patriot Front, the white nationalist group known for its flash mob protests, as well as its training of young men for battle. They want an America that's for whites only. And this is Eric Orwell, the Arkansas man who heads Return to the Land, the group that wants to build a whites-only community in Tennessee. Recently posted photos show Patriot Front showed up at Orwell's compound in Arkansas to help with building projects there. That despite what seemed like his efforts to distance himself from the group when we talked a few weeks back. When we did the Zoom interview, you expressed some ambivalence. But then they came to your place and did some work.
No, I'm all for helping them and them helping us. I do have some personal ideological disagreements, but they're relatively minor.
Yep. I have some ideological differences with white supremacy, but they're relatively minor. What a fucking thing to say to a live news report. What a fucking thing to say. And the fact that park range, it kills me. This is why I'm fat. I am stress eating because the fascism is blatant. The corruption is blatant. It is literally protected by members of the state.
Then there's Greg Johnson, the man in the passenger seat who, as you can see, was none too happy to see our cameras. One of the speakers at the conference, Johnson is author of the White Nationalist Manifesto. After a mass murder committed by neo-Nazi Anders Breivik in 2011, first killing 8 people with a van bomb, followed by the massacre of 69 people at a Norwegian youth camp, Greg Johnson wrote of his, quote, strange new respect for the killer, who he argued was engaged in resistance to genocide. Although Johnson said it would have been better if he had killed the actual leadership of Norway's Labour Party or the leaders of the Norwegian press instead of innocent children.
How is this conference not considered a who's who organization of domestic terrorists? Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? You have some of the most dangerous, organized, and financed groups meeting in this actual white supremacy, white nationalist fascism meeting, and you're not arresting anybody. And in fact, state agents are acting as protection. And that sounds pretty harrowing, actually. I could not imagine what that was like for you to move to a whole new country and then, oh, white supremacy. That would have been extremely jarring, to say the least.
Breivik, he wrote, simply chose the wrong targets for his killing spree. Back at the protest,
does it surprise you that you have someone like Greg Johnson who, defends mass shooters?
It doesn't surprise me. Like I said, it is the worst of the worst.
Then there was Johnson's companion, David Zeddy.
But that is an understatement. This is literally the who's who of white supremacists, white nationalists, and would-be fascists in America. Meeting, they should be all arrested. Like, the FBI should have swarmed this building and arrested everyone for conspiracy and crimes against humanity and threatening public safety.
He has defended the neo-Nazi who drove into a crowd of protesters in Charlottesville, killing 32-year-old Heather Heyer. The killer was convicted of first-degree murder. Yet David Zeddy tweeted, quote, James Fields is a hero who did nothing wrong. And, quote, Charlottesville made me realize that many liberals aren't fully human, along with the true extent of Jewish media control. He has also defended those who assaulted Capitol Police on January 6th. We also spotted this man from Atlanta. His name is Jared Huggins, and he was once part of a neo-Nazi group called Identity Europa. Huggins was also in Charlottesville, according to hate researchers who uncovered this Facebook post under a different last name where he called the weekend, quote, effing metal, and this Twitter post where he celebrated the Dodge Challenger used in the murder. Then there was a Pennsylvania man who heads a publishing house that reprints Nazi and other far-right books, and this young man from East Tennessee wearing a cap for the National Alliance. His name, we discovered, is Dylan Gaidano. National Alliance is a group originally founded by neo-Nazi William Pierce. Pierce's book, The Turner Diaries, helped inspire Oklahoma City bomber Timothy McVeigh. Social media accounts linked to Gaidano have expressed admiration for violent white supremacists Robert J. Matthews and Fraser Glenn Miller. One Telegram post stated, quote, for me at least, if our goals aren't met in my lifetime, I will pull a page out of Master Sergeant Fraser Glenn Miller's playbook. Fraser Glenn Miller shot and killed 3 members of a Kansas Jewish community in 2014 because he wanted to kill some Jews before he died.
Bruh. Why was he tipping the cop? Great question. That is anti-Semitism, not being pro-Palestine. Exactly. And the worst part of all of this was how many literal Nazi or neo-Nazi affiliates were literally documented going into this meeting. I wouldn't have been surprised at this point if Donald Trump or J.D. Vance or somebody from the administration had strolled up in there at this point. Because are you fucking kidding me? Like, I'm all for free speech, but if it is a clear and present danger to society, then that's not free speech. That is a clear and present danger to society. An affiliation with Nazis is exactly the definition of a clear and present danger to society. Those people actually incite violence and commit violence and have the desire to commit violence. They are a credible threat. And Tennessee park rangers are aiding and abetting their meeting and are in charge of the guest list.
Perhaps the best clue about what was happening inside comes from this man we spotted at the checkpoint. Emil Kosman is a Romanian-born pro-Russian podcaster who was invited to the conference to observe.
Right over there, they are videotaping us because somehow we are bad dudes.
This was Kosman we spotted outside the lodge. He later described the atmosphere inside the conference as one where it was anti-Semitism that really invigorated the crowd.
Yeah, the Jews are in control over there. These kind of things. A lot of people cheered. Oh yeah, like good job, man, telling us the truth.
The podcaster said the National Alliance had a table set up where it was selling its materials, but American Renaissance insisted that the Turner Diaries be kept under the table out of public view.
Guys, you know what the reason was? These guys are neo-Nazis. These are Nazis. That was the answer. They are Nazis. That's why we don't do it. It's a Nazi book.
Mr. Taylor, hi, Phil White.
So this conference invites the Nazis, allows the Nazis that are not as openly Nazis to sell merch about their Nazi rhetoric and beliefs. But the ones that are very openly Nazi, they're like, hey, keep that on the DL. But while talking about anti-Semitic things, the crowd goes, oh my. This reporter did an amazing job, 1,000%. And you know, we may as well finish it at this point.
That's a far different story from when I first met American Renaissance founder Jerry Taylor a year ago.
How about the neo-Nazis?
I don't even know a neo-Nazi.
But inside the conference this year,
He said, well, that, what was his expression? That promotes violence and terrorism. Do you know that?
Kosman said Jerry Taylor privately insisted the group's Turner Diaries was a real problem.
Who's state? Our state! Who's state? Our state!
Which is why these protesters say what happens here inside this state park cannot be ignored.
And this group kind of...
Or allowed. Like, not ignored. Sure. It should not be allowed. The only reason why it should be allowed next year is so the FBI can raid the meeting and arrest every single one of those motherfuckers all at once. That's the only reason why this should be allowed. And the fact that it's been going on for 13 years, and the fact that park rangers are aiding and abetting, are doing the actual... Oh my goodness. Okay. We... I don't know how to end the stream, but we definitely need to... Oh!
So about a week ago, we got the massive leak from Ken Klippenstein, who, of course, had these DOJ memos where Pam Bondi, Attorney General of the United States, went out there and directed the Department of Justice and the FBI to start going after these left-wing organizations that she claims, of course, are domestic terrorists. They're all Antifa, this well-organized machine of left-wing activism that exists solely in their imaginations. But basically go out there, start arresting these people who express any anti-American sentiment and charge them with domestic terrorism. Well, unfortunately, that wasn't all, because even more leaks have now come out of memos from Pam Bondi dated December 5th this month, where Bondi is not only telling law enforcement agencies go out there and arrest these left-wing activists, but she instructed them to create a cash reward incentive program for people to go out there, call a tip line, and turn in all of your left-wing activist comrades. That's right, folks. The Attorney General of the United States has officially put a bounty on all of our heads. I don't know what your cost is. I don't know what my cost is. But there is a price on all of our heads. I mean,
what a stream. What a stream we've been having today. Goodness gracious. Great balls of fire. Closing thoughts. We covered everything from ICE and the political persecution of dissenting members of the administration. We've covered criminalization of bigotry and discrimination. We've covered Epstein. We covered ICE and their just blatant disregard for just anything resembling the rule of law. We apparently are the epicenter of the neo-Nazi who's who meeting in Tennessee. And now the Attorney General of the United States is placing a bounty on left-wing activists, or generally speaking, anyone who dissents against Donald Trump. So again, if you say anything against your leader or against his party, you can go to jail, apparently. Now, obviously, those tip lines, those bounties, they don't seem to be very widely spread yet. But I'm very curious to want to now call my local police department and be like, hey, I saw a news article about being able to report activists and get a bounty on them. Is there a list? And then reach out to everybody on that list and add them to my campaign and just like, seriously, if this bounty actually exists and there's a list that we can get a hold of, you have just given the entire left-wing movement, the entire anti-Trump movement in America, a recall roster, a who's who recall roster of who you should reach out to, who is an ally, who is a friend, who is in the same boat as you are. And again, this isn't just leftists. This would be conservatives who are against Trump. These would be people who normally don't vote who are against Trump. This would be the next stages of fascism, which would be the secret police and turning in your neighbors for being against Big Brother. 2026 is going to be something. Pleasant is not one of them. That was the only video that I could find about this. Yeah, I have no doubt. And he's definitely a YouTuber. You can tell by the way he provides it. So, with that being said, What an end to our stream. What an end to this week of news and politics. Goodness gracious. On that note, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a part of this stream. Thank you for your ongoing support. I look forward to seeing you again on Tuesday. Please have a great rest of your night. Please have a great weekend. We stream U.S. politics and news on Tuesdays, worldwide politics and news on Wednesdays, and a recap on Thursdays, which is obviously today. On that note, please like, share, and subscribe the channel, the stream, the campaign. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your neighbors, tell your coworkers. Let us work together to build a movement and provide a platform to fight back against the dystopian nightmare, especially those that we cover today. Samuel Ronan, out.